We don't have.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, February 16th, 2016. It's 7:30. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we didn't do it.
Jumped over the pledge. I'd ask you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you now to call the roll.
Deuter.
Here.
Sabatino.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky.
Here.
York.
Here.
Toledo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Honquist.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. On to agenda item 3, receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there anybody in the audience who has any written communications they wish to submit to council? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing no indication of written communication.
Hold it.
Oh, did I find some? Mr. Crumry, do you have a written communication?
I'm sorry, no.
Okay. All right, so no written communication, agenda item 3. Agenda item 4, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on any item they so choose. We ask out of respect for the work that we have to get done here this evening and out of the respect for other folks who may want to speak, that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you get to 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up your comments. When you are identified, please make your way to the microphone over here to my right and introduce yourself for the record. Address is optional. Clerk Spencer, at this time, is there anybody who has signed up for public forum?
Yes, we'll start with Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys. Well, it's back on the agenda again, so it's 615. I gave something to Mike. It's the product you're going to vote on. You can all look at it, show and tell. I donated to the city. See, you're often asked to vote on things that you have no idea what they are. There's 2 colors of plastic up there, and that's PICs. You can't interchange them. You use them for cold or use them for hot. Mix them and they don't work. They're not durable. They're based on the price of oil. They're cheap. Years ago, we used to use galvanized water lines. That replaced lead. Then we went to copper. It's what the city uses today. It's durable. It has a high melting point. Stuff Mike's got, take a cigarette lighter to it. Its temperature rises, the pressure it'll sustain drops. So if you're going to vote this in, you better realize what you're voting in. And I would advise that if you do okay it for homeowners and industrial and commercial use, that'd be a requirement that you inform whoever buys that property that's how the water system is put in. If you take your car and you go outside and look at it and kick it around, it's got pounds of plastic on it. The car hasn't gotten any cheaper, and it won't get cheaper with that product, but it won't be as durable. And you'll read all kinds of reports saying it's just wonderful and does an excellent job. Well, then that, by your vote, you want it in your house, so tear out your copper tubing and it's running your water system and put it in. Why stick it with the rest of mankind that comes into this town? So really look at what you're doing. Forget the reports. They're all nice. But when you're stuck with it, or your neighbor's stuck with it, you can't be held liable, any of you. But they will be stuck with it if you agree to use it. And on this so-called agenda, we got a lot of no-bid contracts. You people all work for companies. I'm assured every day you walk into your boss's office and say, I want to buy this product on a no-bid contract. Why is the city continually going to these no-bid contracts?
Mr. Pagash, I'd ask you to wrap up your comments.
Well, let's put it this way, Mayor. You have a right for a no-bid contract, but it has to be for a very special reason. But this city has too many special reasons for no-bid contracts.
Kendra Thompson, Crescent Avenue.
Kendra Thompson, 204 East Crescent Avenue. I'm here tonight to yet again show my support for the York Commons Detention IGA. The hopeful last piece of this IGA puzzle is a shutoff valve required by the Park District. The shutoff valve would activate when the detention area hits maximum capacity of a 100-year storm level. Water from Crescent would stop flowing into the detention area, and our regular stormwater flow would continue to take water from our area to the normal stormwater route. Where I'm not in favor of this option, as better ones have been presented, it seems to be a major sticking point by the Park District in order to agree to the construction of the detention area. Residents on Crescent need this detention area. We have seen far too many stopping points in this IGA process, and we are demanding that this is the last one we need to manage. I feel residents have been very patient in this back and forth process with the governmental parties, but we are at our last straw. This back and forth process cannot continue without making you or the Park District look like you are obstructing progress of the much needed assistance this detention area can provide to 38 families ravaged by overland flooding. We are asking the City Council that even with your reluctance to the concept of the shutoff valve, and in the face of the Park District's stubbornness to see other options, you pass this IGA with the requested shutoff valve. Residents have waited and have been active in this process far too long. It is time for the government in this city to take action and stop all the talking, because this back and forth process has reached a very ridiculous point. Thank you.
Carrie Pedoti, 242 East Crescent.
I'm going to start by saying that I agree that the shutoff valve is unnecessary, but the Park District has dug their heels in and won't budge on this issue. The only way for this project to move forward is to include the shutoff valve. The Park District took out the requirement for the park, so the price tag for the project is still $100,000 less than it would be initially. The shutoff valve may or may not fail, which is the city's argument. It may never fail. Even if it does fail, if this project stops our homes from flooding 9 out of 10 times, it's still better than doing nothing. I urge you to vote to include the shutoff valve so your comments can move forward and save our homes.
Carrie, could you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, Carrie Pedoti.
Thank you. Clerk Spencer?
Thank you, sir. Mike Baker.
Mike Baker, 432 East Park. Perhaps some of you are familiar with the sales philosophy, negotiating philosophy of win-win. Tonight you have the opportunity to take another step towards a more significant action on stormwater mitigation. For 7 years now, we have been looking at strategies to confront the flooding problem in our town. Thousands and thousands of dollars in consulting fees, engineering fees, appraisals, and meetings. And now we have the opportunity to take a larger step in a good direction. Hopefully this is the first step of several agreements with the Park District. Some of the other agreements draw the IDNR into the picture, and their fate is far less certain. It has been months since the Park District said they wanted a valve as part of the York Commons project to make a deal. You voted against the valve, had your engineer come in to reinforce your position, but no one was able to convince the park board that they should focus their vote on a 100-year storm event as compared to something much larger. Mr. Mayor, I applaud your willingness and determination in having your bi-weekly to monthly meetings relative to flood mitigation. However, I don't think it's very helpful in negotiations to speak with a negative tone of your fellow government boards when they are doing what they feel to be their mission. I wish the council would likewise show the same diligence at looking at any $100,000 plus budget item. Last year, for example, we had an auto dealership that left town, leaving the city with a $125,000 tab, and we haven't heard an update on that for months. We give tax incentives in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes over $1 million, for years, and don't have the discussion or dissent from the dais that we have had over this valve. In fact, I'm not so sure this isn't one more thing about being told how to craft the agreement as it is about spending the money to do it. So back to the sales philosophy of win-win. If you can't reach an agreement, the philosophy goes, where both sides feel they have won, then you shouldn't make the deal. Since you're at the point where the park board isn't changing their position, yet you can help make a significant contribution to a large number of residents, maybe you should consider this a win-win situation at this point to go forward with the project, including a valve. I thank you for your work to get things to this point, and hopefully, as you look at each project, the negotiations will become easier going forward. As requested at the last meeting, please don't forget the Bryn Haven area in your discussions. One other quick comment on another agenda item. I encourage you to seriously consider the information in the minority report on the rubbish fees. While we haven't done a thing towards adding back the option of a 32-gallon tote for those people that would like it, our rates have gone up on average of 4% a year in city expenses on rubbish. By comparison, for those people on Social Security, the cost of living increase for them is 0 this year. So their garbage rates are going up, yet their income isn't. I wonder if we charge for some of the land that we've given away in the last couple of months, if we would have money to cover some of these garbage increases. Or perhaps we could use some of the surpluses and figure out how to better administer our garbage agreement before we experience increases again. Thank you.
Kathleen Sullivan.
Kathleen Sullivan. I don't have much to add to what Carrie, Kendra, and Mike said, except in addition to the things that he mentioned, the thousands of hours of sleepless nights that are spent by residents, both getting ready for the floods, living through floods that don't happen, and cleaning up after them. Additionally, I'm just here to support the Crescent area neighborhood, and I hope that there's an IGA. Thank you.
That concludes public forum as far as who signed in, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that concludes public forum for those who have signed in. Is there anybody at this time who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet but wishes to address the council? If so, please raise your hand. We have one. Anyone else? Okay, looks like you're it, Mr. Crummery. Oh, I'm sorry, we have two. Well, Mr. Crummery, you go first, and then we'll go with the lady in the back after you're done. Please state your name for the record.
Michael Crummery, 570 West Crockett. Hoping that logic will prevail with the following examples. Two cars pull up to a gasoline station, a small car and a pickup truck. They both pay the same cost per gallon for gasoline. That is a fair and appropriate policy. The yard refuse increase. For the past 3 years, 95-gallon users continue to pay 23 cents per gallon. Yet the 65-gallon users have continued to receive a 1 cent increase over each of the last 5 years. How is this even remotely a fair allocation? And if you're thinking more residents are using the 65-gallon toters, so we need to allocate more of the cost over that higher use population, do you apply that same logic to city vehicle stickers? Or do you in fact charge more for pickup trucks than smaller cars. The IGA with the Park District. I'm holding two documents in my hand for reference: my real estate tax bill and my auto insurance policy. On my tax bill, I see that I've already paid once for the land for both the school and park districts, so I'm not sure why I have to purchase them a second time. And I certainly can't understand why I must pay up to another 50% more for the park district. My auto insurance policy. During my 15+ years living in Elmhurst, I may have seen a Lamborghini or a Ferrari once or twice. Do I have liability coverage of $800,000 or even $1 million on my auto policy just in case I rear-end a Lamborghini or a Ferrari? No, of course not. The odds are so remote that it does not justify the additional premium surcharge. Again, though, I will emphasize my comments from the last meeting. It's not an issue of a 100-year or a 200 or a 300-year flood. The Park District is jumping right to the 500-year and using that data to say the valve's needed. Again, to reiterate what some of the other residents have said, it would appear the Park District has dug in their heels and there's no room for negotiation. So probably the best decision at this point is to pay the $100,000 and be done with it.
Okay, there was a lady in back who identified herself.
Hi, I'm Laura Kukas, 212 East Crescent.
Could you step a little
Laura
closer?
Kukas,
There you go.
212 East Crescent.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate what the others have said in terms of finding some resolution to the flood issues. Not only is it a cleanup issue, but it's also a health issue. My son is allergic to mold, and we also have neighbors further down who also has 3 young boys, and they also have a lot of health issues because of all the mold that they're exposed to because of all this flooding. I hope you find some resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to address?
Good evening, Kylie Harding. I am 224 East Crescent Avenue, homeowner of that house. With me also is David Kaminsky, homeowner of 230 East Crescent, and Tamara Janulius, who is a renter at 230 East Crescent. We also own 2 other properties on York Street in the same neighborhood as Crescent at the intersection of York and Villette. Or where is the intersection? Yeah, York and Villette, yes. So we are here to also implore you to come up with a workable solution for all of the homeowners and the renters that are on Crescent Avenue. We are tired of having to be fearful of our children's lives during a flood. And we're talking about fear of actually drowning in our own homes when the basement's filled with water up to 5 feet. We're also fearful of our homes being damaged further and for property values going down. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else who wishes to speak who didn't have a chance to sign up, please raise your hand. Seeing none, that concludes public forum for this evening. Agenda item 5, any announcements from the dais?
Yeah.
Clerk Spencer.
The Office of the City Clerk announces the City of Elmhurst Council Chambers will be an early voting site for the March 15th general primary election for DuPage County residents. Early voting will begin on February 29th, 2016 through March 12th, 2016. The hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. For additional locations and extended hours, visit dupageco.org/election or call the commission at 630-407-5600. Thank you.
Any other announcements from the dais? Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple. First of all, the Elmhurst Children's Assistance Foundation is having its 7th annual casino night on Saturday, March 19th at the Diplomat West. Tickets and information are available at www.ecaf4kids.org. Please come out and support this great Elmhurst charity. The other announcement I have comes from Elmhurst College, and the college this afternoon named its 14th president. Dr. Troy Van Aken is going to serve as the 14th president of Elmhurst College. He will begin his service on July 1st, succeeding interim president Larry Braskamp. Dr. Van Aken is currently a president at Thiel College in Greenville, Pennsylvania, and he will be in town on Thursday to meet the college community at 11:30 in the Founders Lounge of Frick Center. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. At this time, is there any items on the consent agenda that any alderman wishes to have removed for further discussion, comment, or to vote no? Alderman Braham.
615.
615. Any other items? Alderman Dunn.
6.1 and 6.2.
No, that one is there.
It is there?
Yeah, 6.2, right?
Hold on. Let's, Mr. Dunn? Not sure I got what you're looking for. 6.1?
6.1, yeah, 6.1. I'm sorry.
Just 6.1? Mm-hmm. Alderman Toledo, did you have your hand up?
I do. Item 6.13, 6.17, 6.18.
Whoa. Just do the one. 6.13.
6.13, and then 6.17 through 6.20. It's the same explanation for all four, so I can either pull that, I don't know what the formal process should be. I just really want to make a statement about an item that pertains to all four of those.
Is 6.13 the same as?
No, 6.13 is separate, then 6.17, 6.18, 6.19, and 6.20.
I think that I would recommend, Chair recommends you just pull one, you make a blanket statement about that and say it applies to the others.
Thank you.
Works for me. You okay with that?
6.17 is fine then.
All right. Anyone else?
6.17.
Anyone else? All right, so I feel like I'm playing bingo here, but I'm going to read them off to make sure we didn't miss any. 6.1, 6.13, 6.15, and 6.17. Okay. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 6.1, 6.13, 6.15, and 6.17. Motion to approve consent agenda minus those items. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. Clerk Spencer.
Levin.
Aye.
Mulliner. Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Kolumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Did I call Wagner? Oh, I didn't. He seconded. Oh, I didn't call you and you second. I'm confused.
No,
Oh,
it was Levin and Mulliner.
okay. Wagner.
Aye.
Confusing me. I knew that. Okay. 14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion is approved. Consent agenda passes minus items 6.1, 6.13, 6.15, and 6.17. On to agenda item 6.1. To put this before council, I will ask for a motion to approve agenda item 6.1. Motion by Alderman Dunn, second by Alderman York. Alderman Dunn, you pulled this.
Yes, I pulled it just to make note that this is the meeting minutes from our last meeting, but they do not seem to be attached, and per the Open Meetings Act, I would like to make a motion to pull this back so that those can be attached for at a future meeting.
Okay.
Mayor Moore.
Yeah.
Did you?
Alderman York?
I'll second the motion.
He's second.
Um,
Can I say something?
Sure.
Say
Clerk
something.
Spencer, you want to shed some light on your
Yes,
minutes?
it looks like it, the minutes from the meeting that are on tonight's agenda were inadvertently not put in board docs. So therefore, Alderman Dunn pulled it, so
All right, so we'll just pull
We
it back
can-
till next meeting.
put it on and approve it next meeting. Correct.
Okay, you know what, we're going to do a voice vote. We have a motion by Alderman Dunn, second by Alderman York. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll pull that back, and we'll make sure the appropriate documents are on board docs for 2 weeks from tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Alderman Dunn. Agenda item 6.13. This is a report out of finance. I would ask Clerk Spencer to please read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council accept the 2013 Single Audit Revised 2013 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Auditor's Communication to the City Council, signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, and unsigned by Noel P. Toludo.
Okay, to put this before council, I will ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Toludo, second by Alderman York. Alderman Toludo, you pulled this?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let the council and the public know that I am in support of this particular report. I was unable to attend during the committee's discussion of this topic due to the fact that I was attending the Public Works and Building Committee meeting at the time. I do support this, and I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Okay, for the record. Any other comments or questions as it relates to this report? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to call the roll. Call the vote.
Toludo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palomsky.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 6.13 is approved. On to agenda item 6.15. This is a report out of DP&Z. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the adoption of the Plumbing Code Amendment herein. The City Attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for City Council approval. Signed by Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, Vice Chairman, and Michael Honquist.
Very good. To put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Mulliner. Alderman Levin, this is a report out of your committee.
All right, let me give some background on this since it was pulled at the last meeting and this meeting. A lot of the plumbing code formerly, there was a state plumbing code. A lot of the items that were in our plumbing code were different than those that were in the state plumbing code. There was a change in philosophy, and the city was told that we would have to come in compliance fully with the state plumbing code. One of the things that we did not allow, that the state plumbing code did allow, was PEX, which is a certain type of, I'll call it plastic piping. We currently had been allowed for waste disposal, for venting, but not for water delivery systems. You'll recall perhaps that there was some problems that were related to, raised by various municipalities who wanted to have the option to opt out of certain things. And Building Commissioner Dubiel brought to our committee a request to put some things back in so that we would be, different than the state plumbing code. And as it came up, someone from the community brought up the issue of why couldn't PEX be used as it's used in most other communities. And because we needed to get those other amendments done, we left that as a separate issue. We passed the other amendments, and we promised that we would have a full hearing on PEX. And in fact, we did. Building Commissioner Dubiel was probably the leading opponent of allowing PEX. And what we decided to do as a committee was to undertake a full review of what the issue was all about. We had a number of plumbers, builders came in and spoke with us. We had, I think all the committee members did their own research. We were presented with position papers. And I think the main issue came down to safety in the water delivery system. And as we did all of our research, we found that there really wasn't a continuing basis, and if there are any questions, I'll answer them, but it should be noted that PEX is allowed in all 50 states as a water delivery material, including, I highlight California. I am an attorney who I do some practice out there, and I can tell you they are far more stringent on environmental matters there than most other states. Additionally, in Europe, which is more stringent, it's like Super California, they allow PEX. And really, virtually every community in Illinois allows it, except for maybe 5 or 6, I believe. So it's not just more cost effective. Some would argue it's a better product. If you have copper and it freezes, it's going to break. PEX will expand. It does cost less. It doesn't require that anyone uses it in their home or in their business, but it allows the opportunity. And in fact, Commissioner Dubiel came around to be a proponent of it, and I would say he's probably the most conservative of all people that we spoke to, and came out in favor of it. There really weren't any arguments not to allow it, and there are a lot of benefits to use it. It's clearly the wave of the future. Our position of not allowing it made us really kind of stand out there almost by ourselves. So I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of aldermen who saw it pulled and wanted to know why it was being pulled and what the issue is, and I've explained it. That's the overview, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to first thank Chairman Levin for postponing this discussion for 2 weeks. Secondly, I want to thank the committee because there has been a lot of discussion on this topic, and I believe rightfully so. As I walked into the dais today, one of the Elmhurst residents gave me a sample of what I believe to be is PEX, and we all know copper used for water distribution in our house. The reason why I pulled it is because even coming into tonight's meeting, I still have concern over the utilization of PEX within the city of Elmhurst limits. As Alderman Levin has already stated, in past debates across the country, there's been concerns documented about the water smelling coming out of a PEX distribution system, the possibility of UV degradation, and chemicals out of PEX, the plastic pipe, leaching into the water, which is my most serious concern. Because of obviously what the possible, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a plumber, so I can't speak to it at any length, but the possible health issues that may come if there's any chemicals leaching out of any system into our water supply. I won't name any communities that that's happened to and been in the news recently. Illinois, from my research, and I've done some extensive research on it because I have been hesitant over the past few weeks, knowing that this is going to be on the agenda. Illinois is one of the last states in the United States to broadly allow the use of PEX. It's not mandating it, but it's broadly saying, okay, we feel that it's a safe product to use across Illinois. That doesn't mean that all communities are using it or allowing it, as Alderman Levin has already stated. Some communities have added an amendment and said that it is not allowed, like Elmhurst has done. And that brings us to where we are today. PEX versus copper is what I'm actually looking at. Copper has been in use for, I don't know, at least 100, if not more years. PEX has been in use, at least in the United States, for approximately 25 years. I'm really concerned over the longevity standpoints of any possible issues of these chemicals leaching when a system like this is in a house for 20, 30, 50, 100 years. I'm not sure, and I tried to reach out to NSF, who does the certification for PEX, to get their understanding on what the certification process entails, and have there been longevity tests to ensure the public that chemical leaching will not occur, not only today, but in the long term down the line. But we weren't able to sync up to discuss that at any length. PECs, I do understand why any builder or anybody who does any development in Elmhurst or elsewhere would love to utilize PECs. It's a cheaper product. Copper is a commodity. Copper is a little bit cheaper today, but it could skyrocket like we have seen in the past. As of today, the labor cost of utilizing PECs versus copper, and this is a statement from a PECs distributor, is about 50% less than installing copper. So there's a benefit there. There's also a benefit in regards to cost of the physical product. Right now today, this individual stated that it's about 20% to 30% lower cost from PECs to copper. So the product itself is cheaper, the labor cost is cheaper, but I digress a little bit to say I think it's a good product from those perspectives. But it comes down to the safety and the well-being of the citizens of Elmhurst. If nothing else, I want this to translate into a PSA, a public safety announcement, to be aware of what products are out there and when you're buying a home. In regards to the communities, at least that I'm aware of, that do not allow PECs, it seems in DuPage County, the majority, which was a surprise to me, and I'm glad that there was a 2-week delay, there seems to be the majority of the communities allow PECs today. From my understanding, Addison does not allow it today, and Naperville does not. Lombard changed their ordinance a couple of months ago, and I think Glen Ellyn within the last year. Glen Ellyn, when I spoke with them, they stated that they're only aware of one residential single-family home that installed PECs since the allowance in their code. And the same statements were made by Lombard as well. So it seems to me that even though that it's been allowed, that copper is still the trend. Where do I stand today after all this research, and where do we go with the chemical leaching, and is that an issue? I typically would think that just because everybody else is doing it, does that mean that Elmhurst should do it? But I haven't found anything to date from NSF certification, from trying to actually speak with UL Underwriters Labs, which also does certification for NSF, from speaking with communities and anything else, that the chemical leaching is a problem today. So I stepped towards this cautiously, and I did speak with city staff about this topic as well. City staff, to me, when speaking with the individual, stated that they, have the same concerns that I spoke with them, but they are willing to move forward with it due to the fact that other communities are doing it and across the nation. I didn't get the same vibe as stated earlier that they were on board, necessarily 100% jumping up and down, but I do get the sense that willing to move forward to see on what happens, and that's where I stand today. I definitely have a lot of reservations of this. I'm really concerned. I don't know if I personally would purchase a residence that utilizes PECs for water distribution in their home, but I can't implore what my decision process is across the city of Elmhurst. So with great caution, I am for this, but since I pulled it 2 weeks ago, or requested that it gets pulled back 2 weeks ago, I wanted to speak publicly to it because I didn't have that opportunity then. I really have nothing else to say. Again, I applaud the committee for the work. I will be looking at this cautiously and possibly making a recommendation within a year to revisit this topic at that point. What my last statement is, I am under the understanding one of our major developments relatively across the street is utilizing PECs in their development. So that will be the first PECs use in an Elmhurst residential development. Thank you.
Alderman Mulliner.
I just want to start by saying that, our committee had a lot of the same concerns that we've heard. Well, I don't want by, we'll go ahead. A lot of the same concerns that we've heard. I want to make this really clear. Our committee would not have put forth a report recommending the use of a material that was unsafe. That's one of the things that, as we look at and we're talking about these things, that's our first and primary concern, is to make sure that this material is safe. We talked to vendors in the area of PEX, we've talked to plumbers, we've had contact with numerous people. Our building department has had contact with numerous people talking about this product and seeing whether it was safe, making sure that this leaching, that if we read on the internet, we find that it says it leaches. There's not a lot of evidence to prove that this is true, and the amount of leaching that it does do is comparable to that copper does. It's nothing a lot different. I also want to make it really clear that what happened a couple of years ago was that the state changed its building code. About a year ago, we adopted their building code. As part of their building code, we were required to accept their plumbing code as written. Their plumbing code included PEX as one of the options. It was not something that we were told that we could or couldn't use. It was mentioned that one of the developments in town is actually going to be using PEX. That is true, and that's because of the fact that it was during the window that we allowed PEX to be used. We then asked, our building department asked to have us review it and look at copper only. We reviewed it, and we had they wrote a referral back to the state asking whether we could remove PEX as one of the approved products. The state allowed us to do that as an exception. The only communities that have gone in the state of Illinois and changed that are communities that have come and looked at the ordinance that we wrote to have it removed, and it was very difficult to get it removed. PEX is safe as far as everything that we've been told. I want to make it clear, PEX is not a new product. PEX has been used since 1970s in Europe. It's been used since the 1980s in the United States. I have to agree. I understand where Alderman Bram is coming from. Grave concerns when we first talked about it. I was concerned as well. After long meetings and a number of meetings and listening to all of the experts in this field, I feel that there is no safety issue that we have to worry about here, and I think we should move this forward, and I don't want the community to think that we're doing anything that is going to make them unsafe in any way, shape, or form. We would not do that.
Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment and then a question maybe for the chair, if I may. We have in the report approved a list of approved materials. Number 6 is galvanized steel pipe. So we still have that on as approved material. I don't know how many houses are being built with galvanized steel pipe, but it's interesting that it's still approved. So I guess my question would be, these are recommendations, correct? These aren't requirements. You're not telling the builder they have to use PEX. So if people are building homes, I would probably say buyer beware, maybe request copper if you feel copper's safer. And if you have a little bit more at ease with PEX, then maybe you can go ahead and order that as well. We're going to give them the option to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct, and I think it is these are materials that are permitted by the city, and I'm sorry, Mayor. And I do want to second what Alderman Molnar has said. It's not a safety concern that, you know, buyer beware. I don't even want people to think that. NFI is a leading certification group, much like Underwriters Laboratory. They did test it. You know, it's right on their website what they did in terms of how they tested it for the fittings and for safety in water and contaminants. We heard evidence that copper leaches too when it's soldered or whatever it is together. And the issues in both of them, and all the builders told us, if you buy a new house, you shouldn't be drinking out of the water supply for about the first 60 days until the water starts flowing through there. So it's the same for everyone. And I guess the one thing I want to add to that is that Commissioner Dubiel not only, I don't think it's characterized that he was reluctantly going along with it, but if you read the report he wrote in his own words, quote, Building Commissioner Bruce Dubiel reported to the committee there would be a progressive move for Elmhurst to move to the use of PEX, close quote. He didn't say a dangerous move or it might be okay. He was fully on board and thought it's the right way to go. So while Illinois doesn't mandate the use, it does mandate that it should be a permitted material. And I won't beat the horse to death here, but I just want to emphasize, if we had any concern of safety, we wouldn't be doing it.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Bram?
Thank you. Just a couple other things in regards to PECs. I wasn't clear, and if the committee could speak to this and what the upcoming ordinance, how the upcoming ordinance may read, is this is allowed for water distribution in the home only. It will not be allowed, at least my understanding, of underground use. So it will be copper up to the residents, and then inside the physical building, PECs will be a viable option or a permitted option within Elmhurst. So I want to verify that. And while speaking with other communities, some communities stated that they only allow it for residential and not commercial, and it's my understanding that we're allowing it for both, and if they could speak to the reason why there. And then lastly, in regards to the chemical leaching, I mean, I did talk to a PEC's distributor on this, and they stated that, yes, and I think Alderman Mulliner touched on this. I don't know, in all due respect, if I agree 100% to his comments on it, but there is leaching in any product. It just depends on how much leaching. I wouldn't say, as I believe was previously stated, that the leaching in PECs is the same as the leaching in copper. There's definitely two different material makeups and two different types of possibilities of chemicals leaching into the product. What has been certified, to my understanding from NSF, is that the leaching that does occur utilizing the PECs product is not above any limits that has been established, and I'm not sure who they are established by, I'm assuming by the federal government, where it would be a safety concern. But I don't want to go to as far as saying it's a one-to-one comparison on chemical leaching between the two products. There's chemical leaching in both. It might be different types of chemical leaching, copper versus PECs, but there definitely is. But the certification states that neither of which has proven that it's above the legal limits of chemicals leaching into the product.
Mr. Chairman, it's up to you. You want to address the where and when it's used and why it's residential and commercial?
I will confirm that it's not used to bring the water, the underground service from the city to the house. It's only for the distribution within the home. And we did not see any reason to distinguish between residential and commercial. I don't think it matters whether you're being poisoned in your house or your business. If it wasn't safe, it wasn't safe. So we allowed it in either one.
Any additional comments? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you please call the roll.
Levin.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Agenda item 6.15 is approved. On to agenda item 6.17. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to please read the ordinance.
An ordinance waiving bid and accepting the proposal of IT Solutions Group, Inc. for the backup data center at the City of Elmhurst Public Works Facility.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Toledo, second by Alderman York. Alderman Toledo, you pulled this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My following comments apply to 6.17, 6.18, 6.19, and 6.20. All four of these are ordinances that are asking for your approval tonight on reports coming out of finance from 2 weeks ago. They are in relationship to work being done at the Public Works facility and also in this chamber for some IT work that needs to be done for a backup data center, as well as replacing the AV equipment in here. And the reason why I wanted to pull it is because I wanted to explain to all of you why these ordinances are requesting to waive the bid process. When all of you will recall from reading the reports that there were multiple vendors that provided numbers for the work to be done in these two projects. And the reason for that is it's actually a bit of a technicality. Within the IT space, there are very specialized vendors that have the experience and the expertise and the knowledge to work with certain types of equipment and do certain types of work. And so in this case, in all 4 of these cases, it was determined that it was a lower cost option to not go through the formal bidding process. We received multiple quotes from vendors for all of these projects. You can look that up in the reports. The public can look that up in the reports. And in all of the cases, the lowest responsible bidder was chosen, but we did not formally go through the bid process. And because of that, because of the way the ordinance is written, we require, because quotes were received, not a formal bid, we require that we actually waive the bid process as part of the ordinance. So I just wanted to explain that. It was a question that I had when I read the ordinances, as it didn't jive with how I had remembered the report, and so that is the explanation.
Okay, very good. Any comments or questions? Alderman York.
Just one other thing, too, as in light of this discovery, we're going to start including that explanation in our reports for these qualified purchases, too, so that there isn't this confusion at the time of the ordinance. So,
okay. Alderman Mulliner.
Just a real quick comment. State law does not require you in the area of technology to bid products. All you're required to do in state law is to put out an RFP, and in some cases you don't even have to do that because it's so technical. So you do have the right to do exactly what was done here, was to identify qualified bidders or people who are qualified to do the job. So state law does allow us to have that flexibility.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 6.17 is approved. On to committee reports. Agenda item 7.1. This is a report out of Public Works. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the city billing rates for 65 and 95-gallon container service, refuge stickers, and yard waste stickers be adjusted annually, as indicated above on the attached spreadsheet for the contract period of 2016/2017. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Marty Deuter, Vice Chairman, Patrick Wagner, unsigned by Michael J. Bram.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for an approval of the report and recommendation as read. Motion for approval by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy, the floor is yours. This is a report out of your committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our annual effort to look at the waste rates. For everybody on the dais, the spreadsheet indicates that we get rates from Republic based on the contract. We then apply administration rates based on a number of things, those things like leaf pickup, street sweeping, supplies, salaries, everything that goes into our administration of the refuse program, and ultimately we come up with a city billing rate. Again, the refuse rates come from the contract. Over the last few years, we've made an effort to try and bring the administration fees in line and be equivalent to one another, because the cost of billing and all those things doesn't matter on how much waste you throw away. It's the fact that you have that service. The consumption-based piece is based and is rated on how much you throw away or the size of your garbage can, whether you have a 65 or a 95-gallon container. So again, since we've looked at it over the previous years, trying to bring it in line, the recommendation here is to put that administration fee equivalent at $1.55, regardless of the size of the toter, and those are the rates that we've recommended in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any additional comments? Alderman Deuter?
Thank you, Mayor. We are starting the 4th year of a 5-year contract for our refuse services, and the majority report proposes that residents bear the cost for the services, including the city's administrative fee, in the exact way the costs are paid and/or incurred by the city. This is direct and fair. There are 4 rates identified. The rate structure is the same in both reports. There is a monthly service fee for the 65-gallon toter, a monthly service fee for the 95-gallon toter, a refuse sticker fee, and yard waste sticker fee. We'll hear shortly about the minority report, and if it's, I think I can address them. Can I make comments now about the minority report, or do I have to wait?
I think you should wait.
I'll wait then. I'll stop there. Thank you.
If there is a minority report, that's why we have to wait.
Well, there is one on the agenda.
I understand. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add one comment. As the council will recall, just as a little historical reference, when we signed the agreement 4 years ago, the rates went down. And we knew at that point that from that point on, the rates were going to go up successively 3 to 4%. So if you look at the contract, any 1 year, you might say, oh, the rates are going up. But you have to take into context the entire program. When we negotiated, they went down in the first year. And then when you add in all of the extra services that are provided, that were provided with this contract, the recycling toter, and then of course the street sweeping, everything else. So you know, when you look at the contract in total in this agreement, it's a very, I find it to be a very good agreement. Nobody likes increases, but we knew that going in, and we did bid the agreement out, and this was the best agreement, the best contract that was available. So just want to make sure everybody remembers that in context of the full scope of the 5-year agreement. Thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I concur with Alderman Healy's statements. We did bid it out years ago. It was actually my referral to go out to bid because at that time I think it was 20-plus years that we haven't gone out to bid for refuse and recycling. So I'm glad we went out for bid. I'm glad we saved some dollars there, and we have a better program today than before we went out for bid on this program. We have toters now that have lids, so we don't have recycling blowing all over the place when we had those bins that sat on the street side for overnight, and we had our own garbage cans, some with lids, some without. So this is definitely a better program. But today's discussion, the majority or minority report, is not about the program itself, but is about how much should be charged to the City of Elmhurst residents, and that's key here. The part that we can control as a city council today until this contract is up or agreement is up, and we could either go out to bid or renegotiate with the current provider, is the administration rates. We do have in our agreement, as already stated by my colleagues, a set fee for the 65-gallon, the 95-gallon, the refuse sticker, the yard waste sticker. We can't do anything about it. I agree. But the piece is the city administration rates. And as Chairman Kennedy has already stated, it was the consensus of the committee and therefore the consensus of the council to continue to level set the administration fees between 65 and 95 gallons. Obviously, I am not part of that consensus and haven't been since day one. I do have issue with the majority report, and this is the basis, one of the 2 main points for my minority report. It has been stated that we're level setting costs and we're trying to make up the cost that it is to cover the 65-gallon or 95-gallon, because no matter what, the city is still paying the same for IT services or phone calls that they get from residents about the refuse or recycling or yard waste or refuse stickers. It's the same thing. But then I asked the question by looking at the historical nature of these administration rates that we as a council are looking at today. Why have they gone down in the majority report? Why today for the refuse sticker, it's getting cheaper. Administration cost is getting cheaper from 67 cents down to 57. Have our salaries in City Hall got cheaper? Have we found cheaper labor? Is street sweeping cheaper? I say no to all of the above, none of which have gotten cheaper, but it is the administration rates for the refuse sticker went from 60 to 51 to 67 and now is proposed at 57 cents. So if if the administration overall for this program overall hasn't gotten cheaper, why is this piece cheaper? It doesn't make sense. And if the argument that the majority report is stating that we should level set it because it's the same, well, it shouldn't go down every year. If anything, I would say it would go up, like what we have been seeing in the case of the 65-gallon only, the administration costs going up. But for the 95-gallon, the administration rates are going down. So how are costs going down for one and not the other? Level setting is level setting, and I get it. A phone call is a phone call. IT is IT. But in this case, the argument doesn't hold true, because in the majority report itself, it's contradicting itself. Because for yard waste, it went from 85 cents for administration rates down to 76, down to 67, now down to 57. We continue to drop the price in administration rates from year to year. But for some reason, we feel that there is a need to continue to increase the administration rates for the 65-gallon. So we continue to lower the rates for the administration side from a 95-gallon toter, the refuse sticker, the yard waste sticker, but the majority of residents who are doing the good thing and having a smaller toter, following our own cool cities mantra, following sustainability and throwing out less trash and recycling, they're getting penalized with a higher administration rate? In my view, hypocritical. How can we continue to raise all the other administration costs, or lower all the other administration costs, but continue to raise year in, year out the administration rates for 65-gallon? It doesn't make any sense to me. Some of the residents who's already spoke to this tonight, we're talking about the bottom line and what the increases have been. And I want to actually reiterate that. The 65-gallon percent increase, the total bill that residents see over the past few years has been 3.86% increase from one year to the next, 5.02%. Well, let me go back. That 3.86% increase for 1 year for 65-gallon was the same that 1 year, 3.86 for the 95-gallon. But here's where we get distorted. The next year, 5.02% increase for the 65-gallon, the total cost was only a 1.24% increase for the 95-gallon. The following year, 4.5 for 65, 1.67 for 95. So why are we rewarding those who are throwing out more trash and going against our own cool cities policy? We adopted it, we're living by it, we should live by it day in, day out. So my two main arguments about the majority report, in summary, are that we're going against our own cool cities policy and raising rates on the families, the residents who are doing good and having the smaller, which, mind you, is the greater majority of residents in the city of Elmhurst. If you look at the quantities from a 65-gallon service versus a 95-gallon service, we're talking about 100% more use the 65-gallon versus the 95-gallon. That's a good thing. We're moving in the right direction, but let's charge them more for year in, year out administration costs. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. We're going against our cool cities policy that we all signed on, and it's against the majority report's own view, because if we're level setting, why are administration costs going down for everything but the 65-gallon?
Therefore?
Therefore what?
Mr. Brand?
Oh, sure. I was going to let others speak. But therefore, I would like to make a motion to substitute the minority report for the majority report.
Okay. So there was a minority report posted. Everyone has a copy of it. We have a motion before us to substitute the minority for the majority. Do we have a second? Does not look like we have a second. Oh, sorry. Alderman Deuter, we have a second. So now we have a second on the motion to substitute the minority for the majority. Alderman Deuter, you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I will speak, and I'll pick up where I left off. I knew where we were headed from our committee discussion. So between the two reports that we're now talking about, the respective differences in the fees for each category are 14 cents, 14 cents, 10 cents, and 10 cents. I would argue that the differences in proposed costs are not significant enough to serve as an incentive or disincentive to modify behavior, specifically to generate more or less waste. I do believe the concept of pricing the service in a way to encourage less waste or to recognize households that generate less waste is certainly worth pursuing, but I would say that rather than use the city's administrative fee to adjust for the much larger service costs, which are set by the contract, I would ask staff to aggressively consider alternative pricing structures when this contract goes out to bid sometime next year. I will not vote in support of the minority report.
Okay. Alderman Plumsky.
I would agree with Alderman Deuter, and I do think it is possible to increase rates of recycling among residents, although we do have a very high rate compared to other communities. And the biggest contributor to our high rates is the unlimited recycling that we have right now. I do think, though, we still could increase that by through education programs on what can be recycled, what cannot be recycled, and also opportunities for special recycling days. I do think that's for a discussion for another time, and I would agree with Alderman Deuter that this is a topic that should come up at the next opportunity with a new contract. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments? Alderman Levin?
I think the amounts of money, my comments will be very brief because the amounts of money was pointed out, a 10-cent or 14-cent a month increase or difference between the two proposals is really not worth much time. But I also just want to point out that it's not who's greener if you have a bigger or smaller garbage. If I have 8 kids, I'll probably have a 95-gallon one, and if I'm an empty nester, I'll have 65. It doesn't mean that one's being more efficient. It's not necessarily true that the people who have the larger garbage containers are any less green. So I don't think that's really a good point across the board.
Alderman Mulliner.
I just, one of the things that I think we need to clarify to everybody is that the cost of garbage pickup, it sounds like the big difference is a 95 versus a 65-gallon toter. That's not the cost of garbage pickup, whether it's recycling or whether it's regular garbage. The cost of garbage pickup is for a vehicle to drive down the street and pick it up. It doesn't matter whether that garbage can is 95 gallons, 200 gallons. It doesn't matter what it costs. It's the cost of those trucks driving up and down the street. Our administrative costs are the same. The difference in the cost, when you're talking about the difference between the 95 and the 65-gallon toter, is the dumping fees. That's really the difference in the cost. The reality is it's the difference in the dumping fees. That is a very minor component in the whole big picture of things. It's not something that's a major cost. So, when we're looking at these pennies that we're talking about administratively, it's the same administrative cost, whether it's one size garbage can or whether it's another size garbage can. That's not the issue. So I am not in support of the minority report. I would go ahead with the majority report, and let's move this forward.
Any other comments? Anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet? All right. Any other comments? Alderman Braham.
Thank you. I guess I'll use the same argument back at those who have spoken to it. The difference ain't significant enough. It's only pennies. Well, then if it's only pennies, you could say that on both sides of the argument. Then support the minority report. If it's only pennies, who cares? Charge those who are using less waste. I respectfully disagree with Alderman Mulliner's comments that the landfill costs are the minor piece of the puzzle. Yes, there are still employee costs and truck costs and capital costs and fuel costs and all those good things, no matter what size toter you have in front of your house. But if you aren't aware of this, all of the landfill companies are doing their best to try to limit what goes in to these landfills because we just don't have the space for all our waste. That is why we're doing all this recycling. That is why one of the reasons why we're not dumping electronics in the landfills anymore. Today's program, and I don't want to go deep down this tunnel, but today's program is 65 versus 95. We used to offer 32-gallon. Seniors are now obligated to do a 65-gallon toter. Harder for them, more costs for them. This is a big component of what hits their budget every single month. You may argue that it's only pennies on the dollar. We'll say that to a senior who they hear that same argument every time something goes up to them when they're on a fixed budget. I think the comments about being green or not being green, yeah, there are some circumstances. If you have a big family, of course, there's no way that you're going to be able to get all your refuse into a 65-gallon toter. But come on, let's be realistic here. That's more the exception than the rule. I think the average in Elmhurst is 2.5 kids per household, not a family of 9. So that's the exception to the rule. We don't write ordinances or pass budgets in regards to the exception. We pass them to the rule. Essentially, what I feel, and I want to give a little bit of historical background for those who weren't here at the time. Last year, we actually had a Republic representative at our committee, and I asked, where do these contract costs come from? They said, well, those were what was agreed upon by the city and Republic. Not, oh, that reflects landfill costs. It was more arbitrary than we're being led to believe in some of these discussions. These are the numbers that were agreed upon for each of those. I've been on the council for 15 years. Every time I brought this up, I've heard two sides of the argument. One side is, well, Alderman Bram, discuss this when we talk about the administration rate so we can level set it at that point. Then I hear arguments when it's not during that debate, when it's about the agreement. Well, we can't discuss those because this is the contract agreement, and discuss that when we're talking administration. Then I hear the reverse. Talk about it when the contract's up. Which is it? I've heard both over my 15 years. I'm taking a stand because it needs to be taken a stand. Level setting is not appropriate because the current rates in the contract are not reflective of landfill costs per 65 versus 95. The majority report, like I already stated, is contradictory to its own report. Administration costs don't go down, but we're showing that we're going down on all cases but the 65-gallon toter. How can that be true?
Alderman Plumsky.
I just want to make one more point. The majority report shows a 10-cent decrease. It's 10 cents less than the minority report for yard waste, which is composting. So it does level out. If you're, if you're looking at recycling one end, some could say the other green approach is composting or yard waste. So this is very similar when you take a look at the numbers. These reports are very similar.
Okay, any other comments? Any other comments? Alderman Dunn, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Yes, looking at the expenses that the administrative fees is designed to cover, leaf pickup, street sweeping, and those types of expenses, they are not variable based on the size of your toter. Supplies, street sweepings, they impact everyone equally, and I think that's the rationale for having this component be equal for each home. This administrative fee is maybe 10% or less than the total amount of a monthly bill. By far the largest component is the service, and based on the size of your toter. The 95-gallon toter is over $5 more than the $65 toter. So certainly if you are able to use a smaller toter, you would be inclined to move in that direction to save $5 a month. So I think we're doing a good job of incentivizing using the needed size for a household, and the administrative fees being a small portion and being equally split amongst every home. I think it's fair to split this fee equally. Thanks.
Okay, any additional comments? I'm going to ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on the minority report. This is to substitute the minority for the majority.
Bram.
Aye.
Deuter.
No.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader.
No.
Dunn.
No.
Palumski.
No.
York.
No.
Toledo.
No.
Healy.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Onquist.
No.
Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
No.
1 aye, 13 nays, 0 absent.
1 aye, 13 nays, motion to substitute fails. Back to our original motion. Any additional comments as it relates to agenda item 7.1? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to call the roll.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Polemski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nay.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 7.1 is approved. On to agenda item 8, reports and recommendations. Pardon me. 8.1, Mayor Morley, that's me. I'm going to try to keep this short. It looks like we're at the end of our agenda, but we have a lot to cover tonight. A couple of items. Had an opportunity to meet with Congressman Quigley, our U.S. Congressman, a couple of times over the last month, and brought him up to speed on what we were doing here in Elmhurst. One of the things that he was very interested in was our downtown plan and specifically our metro station. Congressman Quigley and I had a conversation about how our metro station, while functional, doesn't necessarily fit in as well as it could with all of the redevelopment and all of the stuff that Elmhurst has to highlight. So we're working with Congressman Quigley. He thinks at some point down the road, if we have a plan in place, we can get some federal dollars to either tear down, remodel, or spruce up our current metro station. So that's something that we are just kicking off. It is part of our downtown plan. So I met today with Congressman Quigley and also the government affairs representative from Metro. Number 2, Stormwater Communications Committee. This is the communications committee that I think everyone's aware of. We're meeting publicly these days. There is a meeting this Thursday in council chambers at 7 o'clock to go over current status of intergovernmental agreements and intergovernmental projects between the school board and the park board. Final item, this is going to dovetail a little bit into what staff is going to show us tonight, but the EDC held their 3rd annual Women in Management forum tonight, and what that did is that actually worked out nicely. We have a lot of aldermen asking for updates as it relates to development in town, and I know that Ms. Vanderwall and Mr. Kopp have been working on a presentation that highlights a lot of the redevelopment and production going on in Elmhurst, and they have something they're going to show us real quick that highlights Elmhurst kind of from north to south. I know that they've been working on this for weeks, if not months, and worked right up until about 5 o'clock today before they ran over and gave their presentation at the Women in Management. So that concludes my report. City Manager Grabowski, is this your report, or do you have something?
One item before this. Every other year, the city does a citizen survey, and we're kicking off that process for 2016. Cassandra Schreff you should have received a memo from her regarding the last survey and the questions that we asked, and we're interested in your input if there's anything in addition to that to include with the survey this year. So if you could please get that information back to her, I'd appreciate it. The other item, as the mayor had already set up, I've asked Aaron and Mike to present this tonight. As Mayor said, this has been in the works, and so I will turn it over to Assistant Manager Kopp.
And I don't think it's online yet, but it will be by tomorrow morning.
It's on board docs
Got
right
it?
now.
Okay.
It is.
All right. Great. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. As the mayor said, this was the Woman in Management seminar was tonight, and it was a great turnout. I think it was a great event. The 4 female members of the EDC put it all together, Dan McGinnis and Barbara Rixey Shaw, Trish Hall, and Marianne Gorski. So it's a great turnout, it's a great event. And one of the things that we talked about was just an update of some of the development going on in town. First of all, just a map. I'm going to pretty much go from north to south on things that are going on right now. The ones that are in yellow are future events. The ones in red are ones that are being built right now, and the ones in that lighter yellow are in review or in plan review, or the permit's been issued, but the construction hasn't started yet.
So we're going to start with 964 North York. For most people, it's that single-family home just north of Wendy's up on the north side, which has recently been demolished. The property was owned by the Roche Auto Group. They had planned to use that to expand their business. As fortune would have it, they were able to purchase a different building behind their property, which better suited their needs. So they just demoed that house and are going to begin marketing that space shortly.
Next is the Wilkins Auto Group. It's the Hyundai and Mazda dealership. Right now, both dealerships are housed in that one small showroom right in the front there. Working with Mazda and Hyundai, the Wilkins Group had to separate those two into separate showrooms, and so this is like an overview of what their future is going to look like. On the bottom, that's going to be the new Mazda dealership. In the top, the Hyundai is going to connect to the existing service center, both about 8,000 square foot. The Honda, this will be what the renderings will look like for the Honda dealership, which is going to attach to the old service center. They're going to take the front showroom off and attach this, and this will be the Mazda dealership. Currently, the Mazda dealership is in plan review. They're hoping to start construction as early as the middle of March. We're currently working right now with them. There was a report just recently regarding TIF incentive and sales tax incentive. We're working with the redevelopment agreement right now, and hopefully within the next meeting or two from the city council, you'll see that redevelopment agreement come back. The LA Fitness, was the Waverton. Currently, it looks like this now. There's a retail center going up on the hard corner. The LA Fitness will be going where the empty space is right now, the overview right now. It's about an 8,000 square foot retail center. LA Fitness currently is about 37,000 square feet. The LA Fitness, the plans are in now. They're doing a review right now. They hope to start construction within the next couple of months, and they're hoping it should be open later this fall, late spring, early fall. That's the rendering of what the LA Fitness is going to look like, and the retail center.
And this is the 8,000 square foot retail center that Mike mentioned. Currently, Starbucks is working on the interior of their build out there. It'll have a drive-through as well. That should be complete within the next 90 to 120 days. They also have a lease that should be finalized this week with Bentley's Pet Stuff. It's a high-end pet boutique. You may have seen it on the TV show The Prophet. It was formerly Bentley's Corner Barkery. They also are in negotiations with a national credit tenant for an additional 1,200 square feet, which leaves them just over 2,000 square feet remaining.
And right across the street from that location, at 619 North York, was the old AT&T cell phone store. Currently, they've been hit in the market, but unsuccessful in getting it leased out. So the ownership has decided to demolish the building, grade the site, and market it that way. They feel it'll be more marketable because of the condition of the building right now. If they cannot make a deal or get it leased up in the next 6 months, their plan is to build their own 2,500 to 3,000 square foot retail center, which will house 2 to 3 retail tenants.
The next is the former Stevens Steakhouse location. I had planned to tell you that the demolition was in progress, but as of this afternoon, they're almost completely finished. The plans for the Thornton's gas station that will be going there have been approved. That is a rendering of the front of the store. They plan to open in late summer of 2016 and start construction as soon as possible based on the weather. And this is a drawing of a picture of a different Thornton's, which is the same footprint as ours.
Hahn Street development, known as Elmhurst 255. As you can see, if you look out the window, you'll see it looks similar to this right now. They're starting to work on the north tower right now. It was being built starting from the left. That way they can get this weather tight and start doing interior finishes while they work on the north tower. They're still on track right now to have tenants in there as early as August or September of this year.
There's also 12,000 square feet of retail space on both the north and south lobe of the front of the building. In between is a public plaza that affords them the opportunity to have outdoor seating or outdoor venues for the retail spaces. They have confirmed with us that a restaurant has taken a little over 3,000 square feet of the northern building, and the rest they are showing on a regular basis and anticipate and are very confident that it will be completely filled long before their August open dates.
Also, that just as an update, it's 192 units, luxury apartments, about half two-bedroom, about half one-bedroom.
This site, known as the Plath site, will soon be known as the York building. This is how it's looked for a long time. This is how it looks now, completely demoed. It will be now a 3-story building with first floor retail with a small space in the back of that first floor for residential parking. Though it's only planned to be 3 stories, we do anticipate it to be around 45, was it 45? 45 feet due to high ceilings for the luxury apartments that they plan to have there. So the second floor will be approximately 12,000 square feet of office space. And then the third floor, as previously mentioned, would be luxury rental apartments, and they plan to only have 5. So they'll be rather large. And the plans are in the review process, and they plan to start construction as soon as possible. Next is one that I'm very excited was available for us to talk about at this point in time. The former Coco Marrow yogurt shop will now be the Elmhurst Craft Kitchen and Bar. That's a rendering of what they plan to change it to. It will be a farm-to-table restaurant and is locally owned by Christy and James Blessing, who are partial owners in Pints right now, who have decided to reinvest in the Elmhurst area and the community with their new restaurant concept. They're in the liquor license process right now. And the Addison parking deck, which recently opened, it's 690 spaces, as I believe most people in this room know. There's customer parking, employee parking, which is very much needed, and as well as some daily fee parking. There's also approximately 16,500 square feet of retail. Currently, Orange Theory Fitness occupies a little over 3,000 of that and are going gangbusters there. They've also just today finished a lease for a hot yoga studio, which will take over 4,000 square feet. And the owners are working with other leases right now. They're very optimistic that it will be leased completely soon. They've had multiple offers ranging from 1,500 to 8,000 square feet for their spaces. They do say one obstacle that they face is the cost of black iron to convert that for restaurants. That's an issue that they're having. I think this is still me. So we're at 100 North York. Pole Home Design and Interiors was there also long before that, Fannie Mae for many, many years. Right now, they've started demolition of that property. As you can see from these renderings, they've put a little Art Deco kind of style to it. They've said that they want to make it a generation property with a lot of stone and glass facade. So the demolition that's taking place right now is the interior and the facade. And they're also combining the space. About this time last year, a developer purchased the property and vacated it because they were sure that they had a tenant that was going in that unfortunately fell through right at the last minute. But now they do have the end cap leased. This is 3,500 square feet of property that starts at the corner of First and York and then goes north all the way to Wallscapes. Soon we hope to be able to tell you what's going in that space. They are also working with a national brand tenant for another 2,154 square feet that remains there.
The other thing too is looking at the architectural elements of this. The way they were inspired to do this is they visited our historical museum. They found pictures from Walgreens when it was back there in the 1940s. If you look at some of the architectural elements here, obviously that's quite old. There's a lot of the same elements in this as there's going to be in the new facade. So that's sort of neat that they took that effort to go and do that. This is the municipal parking lot, the surface parking lot across from our new parking deck on Addison. As you all know, we went through the RFP process, chose Fitness Formula as the preferred applicant. We're working with a redevelopment agreement with them right now. There's a rendering of what they're going to build there, a 50,000 square foot, 3-story high-end fitness club. And it'll be exciting to get this project done. They're saying it'll bring about 1,500 people a day to the downtown. So that's going to really help the foot traffic in the downtown. We're excited about that. Right down the street from there at 100 Addison, where the U.S. Bank sits right now, Opus Development has that under contract right now. They're doing their due diligence. They're going through the zoning entitlement process. Their public hearing was last Thursday night for up to 168 unit, 65 foot tall luxury rentals with retail on the first floor. That's the rendering they showed at the public hearing. Another one they showed is a sort of an upper view where you can sort of see how it meshes into the other properties around it. They said they're in the zoning entitlement process right now. If they can get through that, they want to start construction as early as this summer.
Do you know square footage of retail?
About 7,000 square feet. This is 105 Cottage Hill, familiar site for a lot of people that have been around Elmhurst for a long time. It was on the market up to about a year ago, and the ownership had some other business dealings they had to deal with, so they sort of took it off the market to sort of waiting to get the rest of their stuff straightened out, per se. We're working with them right now to try to get it back on the market and for some future development.
And this is the former Ron's Marathon Station at Palmer and York on the south side of the tracks. It was now the Lakeside Bank facility. Today it looks like this. It's actively under construction, and because it's going to be the gateway to the city center from the southern approach, we're very excited with the look and the time and the effort that they've put into their design here. And they're also going to allow us to share signage with them to really promote the city center businesses as well as the bank. This is the property that is adjacent to Whole Foods. When the Dominick's closed, Whole Foods had leased the entire space. They did not need 12,000 square feet of it. Right now, they're working with a national credit tenant, and they hope to have the lease signed by the end of February. First, they'll need to terminate the Whole Foods lease on that space, and then finalize that with the national credit tenant. And they hope to have them in there by the end of the summer. Now we're on Spring Road. This is the Marisi building at 532 South Spring. This is the former Tree Towns location, as it was when they purchased this property, and it was the Marisi family who owns Roberto's. They were not able to recondition the building for reuse, so they tore it down and built this new property. It will be divided up into up to 8 spaces for retail. And let me check my, see. Oh, it's 12,000 square feet of retail for those 8 spaces. And currently they're working on leases. There's a lot of interest. They already have an insurance office and a tutoring center that are going in. They're also having another letter of intent out for a large tenant. And they're actually reserving an additional 2,500 square feet for the owners to use for future use. Kitty corner from that building at 513 South Spring, the Marisi family has also recently purchased this former Suburban Bank and Trust building. Because of the operations that they're having across the street, they're going to hold this property for the moment until they decide what best suits that area for them.
This next site is down on Brush Hill Road in Euclid. This is the Artis Senior Living, and that's Park Place to the rear. Elmhurst Christian Reformed Church is to the left, and the Elmhurst Hospital will be to the right. Just currently, if you look at this is being a multi-use really on this property. If you see the left-hand side there, that's the Artis Senior Living Care Facility. To the upper right-hand corner, it's going to be additional parking for Elmhurst Christian Reformed Church, which they do need. And below that's going to be shared detention. So they're taking that site and they're multi-purposing it. This is some renderings for the Artis Senior Living. It's really a memory care facility. There'll be 72 separate rooms in here. Their permit was picked up last month, and they're hoping to start construction in the near future based on weather. Just on a nitty development, I know we looked at mostly commercial stuff here, but just it's sort of interesting. Phase 1 was 3rd Street. That phase is sold out. Phase 2 was Schiller Street. That phase has been sold out. Phase 3.1 was they're starting to build on the interior Joanne Way, that road. You'll see there's 6 homes up right now. 3 of those are sold. They just picked up 3 permits for 3 new homes to go on there. 1 of those is already sold. They'll be coming in the next 4 to 5 weeks with 13 or 14 new home drawings for the south side of Joanne Way, and then it'll leave them 9, probably later on this year, 9 homes for the west side of the U-shaped Joanne Way. So the project is really going along well. Obviously they're selling well, and it's a really nice addition to that area, bringing it back to all residential. And just quickly, the North York plan we did last year, part of the North York plan was say get a more detailed streetscape, so as developments happen, we can have the detailed specifications for what we want developers to do. But when the streetscape's looking at it right now, and it really breaks itself up naturally to 3 separate streetscapes. One is south of 290, one is the 290 interchange area, and then one is north of the 290. They're working how do you blend those all together yet keep their distinctive characteristics. With the LA Fitness property and the retail center going in, with the redevelopment of the 619 North York across from that, and then with the Stevens Steakhouse coming to Thornton's now new, we think that focusing on this interchange, it's really a gateway to Elmhurst. Really tens of thousands of cars come into Elmhurst through that location every day. So with the redevelopment going on, we think the opportunity to look at possibilities for this whole gateway to come in, and that bridge is one of them. That picture up there was one on North York corridor study, just saying, hey, there's some neat things that can happen up there to make that a more attractive location and more of a welcoming gateway into Elmhurst. So just an update on that. The streetscape should be coming out in their draft plan within the next probably month or so, with hopefully going through the whole process in the next 3 or 4 months. Then lastly, I just want to mention about the downtown plan. We've gone through that process for, 6 to 8 months now. We've had community meetings. We just had one February 7th, I think it was. And the public hearing now will be on February 25th in these chambers at 7 o'clock. The plan is on our website. You can go to elmhurst.org, and under quick links, you'll see a link to get to the downtown plan. There's also one available at the community development counter downstairs, and there's one available at the library if you're interested in seeing what's going on downtown plan. But just want to remind everybody that the public hearing is February 25th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers.
Is that it?
And that's it. If there's any specific questions.
Well, I don't mean to say, is that it? That's fantastic. I think I've said this in the past. I have an opportunity to attend a lot of mayors and managers meetings for a lot of our surrounding communities, and I don't think there's one community in DuPage County that wouldn't want to be in our shoes and have that stuff happening. When we have these meetings, we share what's happening, and the other towns share one project that's happening. They don't share 25 projects that are happening. So I think it's a great highlight, and I appreciate the update from Aaron and Mike and Alderman York. No, I was just going to say, hour's getting late, and I know people have some questions. I'd like to maybe take a couple of quick questions. If we get into any long discussion, maybe we take it offline, just because I know we're. Mr. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to point out that this afternoon, Alderman Sabatino, Alderman Deuter, Alderman Levin, and I were at the Women in Management Conference, which was great, very well attended, and it was interesting to stand in the background and listen to all the oohs and ahs as all these projects were gone through for the whole audience. So it is quite amazing, everything that's happening here in Elmhurst, and is a real testament to the root stock of Elmhurst to begin with, but also the really, really hard work that's gone into making this even a more viable center for economic development.
And the other thing I will add is that when it comes to vacant storefronts that you see sometimes in our downtown, I would say 9 times out of 10, there's usually something happening there. But unless the person who's coming into that storefront is coming in with the very exact same business or very similar business, even at its fastest track, it's going to be about 6 months for that person to get the proper permits and build out the way they want to. Realistically, and we see it on that corner that Aaron mentioned about where Fannie Mae used to be. It's a 8 month to 1 year timeline for a lot of these spaces to get repurposed. So I think this is a great highlight that shows that that those empty spaces are just in progress. So Alderman Braham, and I'll go to Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank both of you for the presentation. I mean, I made the request 2 weeks ago. I hope that this will become a quarterly event, as I brought up in the past, because I think it's good to, not only from the elected officials' perspective, but from the community, to understand and level set expectations. Just because you see an empty storefront doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, that things are going on possibly behind the scenes, not in a bad light, that businesses will be moving in there shortly. One of the things, and my only request is, other than thanking the both of you and the rest of city staff who contributed to this, is the details that were stated verbally. I'm hoping that we can add that to, not all maybe, but some of the details on the presentations, like, you know, the number of square feet, the number of retail, what are the signed leases at least, from a retail perspective, so any resident can go online and check this presentation and have a good understanding of what's going in. The terminology, I just want to make sure I have it straight. National credit tenant, does that translate to, i.e., a bank?
No, that's just that's just a business that's a national business, a well-established business, that good credit business. So when a landlord's looking for a business, he wants a business with good credit. Normally, the national larger chains are the big credit. You know, there's good financials behind that. The odds of them failing on the lease as compared to a local one type shop are less, and the chance of the rent being paid is much greater with the national tenant. That's their feeling on it. The other thing too, just to quickly, is that a lot of times we don't know what that tenant's going to be. That's the most information they'll give us. It's a very competitive market when you talk about the commercial brokerage firm. Those brokers, they don't want the information until that lease is signed. You all get letters of intent and they work on that, but there's a lot of times we have no idea what that tenant will be, and sometimes when we do, they ask us not to share that because it's such a competitive market also. And a lot of times those businesses want to make that splash when they're ready to. They say, hey, we're coming to Elmhurst.
Alderman Healy?
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question about the development at First and Addison. Sounds like that's moving along fairly quickly. Have they had any conversation? Have they shared any of their stormwater management plans? I'm sure that, I know they have to adhere to the county ordinance. Have they talked about doing anything incrementally, anything outside the box? Have they approached us to potentially seek assistance for doing something above and beyond, considering the size of that development and where it's at?
At this point, they're required to do best management practices, BMPs, and that's what they're working on right now. But they haven't approached us of anything above and beyond what the county ordinance is.
So is that a project that we might consider approaching them on? I mean, that is still in TIF 1. It's in TIF 1 for several more years, or TIF 1's active for several more years. Possibly approaching them to go above and beyond, potentially with city assistance, TIF assistance, if we find that to be worthy. Is that something that we can do or should do?
I would say we are doing that. In our discussions with them, we've indicated the importance that stormwater has in Elmhurst and pointed out, you know, the situations where the city's partnered with those developments.
Excellent. Thank you.
Alderman Wagner.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to commend probably the last 8 councils, because this takes vision. And not everybody had the same vision, and myself included. So it's a wonderful PowerPoint presentation. I'm really excited about the city of Elmhurst. So thank you. Congratulations.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Mulliner.
I just want to thank staff for all the work they've done on this. It's just tremendous. You know, the vision is there. We know staff is doing a great job implementing it, so keep up the good work, and hopefully we'll see a lot more coming. So thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes, I would like to echo the comments, thanking staff and everyone involved. It's exciting to see all these medium to large projects. I think we should also recognize there's small efforts going on, small projects, businesses turning over, new businesses moving in. A lot of those weren't even mentioned in this particular presentation. In the past, we've shared a vacancy rate for Elmhurst. Would you happen to know that? The current rate offhand, I do get asked that occasionally, and I think it was like 4% several years ago. I don't know where it is now.
I think if you take off line, like right now, Plast, that was 15,000 square feet. If you take that off, we're probably still somewhere in that 4 to 5% range. That's one of the things that Aaron's working on right now, is actually mapping the vacancies, the size of the vacancies, and so we'll have a better idea in the real close future here as far as where we stand exactly, but it's probably still in that same, right around that same range.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you, staff, for all the hard work, and it is, when you add it all up, very exciting, and it's good for people to know what's going on in Elmhurst. City Manager, anything else on your report?
No, thank you.
Any other reports or recommendations from the dais? Okay. On to agenda item 9.1. Let me give it a little bit of a update or a reminder for folks. This is a resolution that refers to, it came out of a report, but basically this is a resolution along with an IGA for the city to work, structure an intergovernmental agreement with the Elmhurst Park District at York Commons. Council will recall, and I think I have my dates right, back on January 18th, Council approved a resolution striking certain language in the resolution and in the IGA, referring to a valve that the Park District was requiring. I just want to get my dates right. That was on the 18th. In between that time and the City Council meeting on the 1st, there was feedback, and I believe there was actually a Park District meeting. And the Park District at that meeting stated very clearly that, and there was a lot of communication back and forth and a lot of data provided to the Park District, because I think the Park District, actually some of them attended our meeting, but the Park District understood that it was the belief of the council that the valve that was being requested was what I'll call an over-engineer, not needed, complicated a project, and ultimately resulted in additional expense to the taxpayers of Elmhurst. That was the reason why back on the 18th, this council unanimously decided to remove the valve language. In between the 18th and the 1st, it was made clear by the Park District through various communications, but also publicly at their meetings, that this was a sticking point and that the Park District would not move forward and allow for construction of this project if the valve was removed. So within our ordinances, it allows during a meeting or immediately thereafter the next meeting, it allows for a motion to reconsider, which is something that's allowed for in Robert's Rules and something that's also allowed for in our code. So I specifically asked, now there's several different ways, if you're familiar with Robert's Rules, and there's a lot in here, you can take 6 different paths in Robert's Rules to get to the same outcome. In this case, on Monday, the 1st, I requested that from council that somebody make a motion to reconsider, along with, as part of that motion, that a motion to reconsider be made with this specific resolution with the valve wording put back in. Now, there's several different ways you can do a motion to reconsider. You can do a motion to reconsider and not change anything. You can do a motion to reconsider and consider additional information, or you can do with what we did here as a council 2 weeks ago. We did a motion to reconsider the resolution with the valve language put back in. So I will remind council that's what it, so that was done, I believe it was Alderman Levin with a second by Alderman Honquist, yes, at the time. And we did not vote on that motion to reconsider. What we did is we did a motion to postpone to date certain, which is an acceptable subsidiary motion to allow us to discuss it 2 weeks later. It also removes any perceived conflict that our bylaws and Robert's Rules might have with the Open Meetings Act of discussing something that wasn't necessarily posted. So that's where we got to today. That motion to reconsider was postponed to date certain, which is right now. The motion to reconsider in effect, and I rewatched the tape to specifically go over exactly what motion was made and discussed it with city attorney. We have a motion before us now. It can be classified as a motion to reconsider, but we have a motion. We are taking up that motion again. We have a motion now to consider resolution R 2022-134-205 with the valve language in it. That is what's before us right now. No amendments. That's the resolution. There's, on board docs, both were posted, but the one that's on the pending motion that we're taking back up for consideration right now is a motion to approve this resolution with the valve language in it that was in it back in January. Everyone clear on that? So there's no pending amendments right now. This is what we're voting on. Now, that doesn't mean that during this conversation, any alderman, like any other normal motion, can make motions to amend if they so choose. Okay? Everyone clear? Any questions before we get started? All right, so we are now taking back up the motion to reconsider, which was originally brought by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Honquest, and it is Resolution R-134-2015, and this resolution includes the requested valve construction as demanded, as required by the Park District for this project to move forward. It's before council right now. Any comments as it relates to this? Alderman Mulliner.
As the report is presented at this moment, with the valve included in it, I cannot support this. As a council, we accepted a responsibility and we determined that we were going to set our priorities at a 100-year flood. The report that we have in front of us that we got from Burke Engineering says that the valve is not a necessity. The report that we have, even from V3 at 100 years, does not say it's necessary. They begin to address it above 100 years and focusing on 500 years. At some point, we have to draw a line as far as what we're willing to do in order to mitigate the flooding problems that we have in town. We could say that we want to build a facility that's capable of handling a 1,000-year flood, but that's not realistic. A 500-year flood is not realistic. The 100-year, we're going to be able to mitigate some of the issues that are in front of us. And I think that we need to, I understand that they've dug their heels in, but I think that we're at the point right now where we need to take our responsibility, and ours is to actually handle flooding. Theirs is to handle open land and parks. We need to take our responsibility seriously, and I know we all will, and I just at this point cannot support it with a valve in it.
Alderman Levin.
I understand Alderman Mullner's concern and his reasoning, and I spoke at greater length at a prior meeting about the fact that there's no dispute engineering-wise that the valve isn't needed, that the valve can fail. I spoke to the fact that the savings of $200,000 that the Park District is putting on the table by not requesting park improvements doesn't mean that we should spend $100,000 of taxpayers' money wasted. I'm a taxpayer. I'm offended by that. And I hold the Park District Board responsible for such irresponsible spending. My last point was, I don't know why the Park District is putting its input, let me put it more frankly, flood control is none of its business. It's our business. All we did was ask for land to help with the solution for the residents of the entire city. But from my hearing of the tapes from the Park District meetings, they want to get in the flood control business. And if it works or it fails, the people out there are going to look at us. They're not going to look at the park board. We've been thwarted because we couldn't have the west side of York Commons. We're now told that they're concerned about water on the east side flowing into York Avenue. None of your business. Okay, so we're at an impasse here. And as distasteful as it is, and I don't plan on speaking again this evening, I will support the motion to waste $100,000 on a valve that's not needed, will not improve anything, and may fail. Let's waste that money, not because it's good public fiscal policy, but because there's a gun to our heads and we have to provide a solution to the residents who are suffering flooding. I will support the motion.
Alderman Leader.
Mayor, just to be certain, we are debating here without the valve?
No. This is, the motion before us is to approve the resolution, and the IGA will contain the wording with the valve.
Okay, so this, what we're going to vote on is with the valve.
For right now, someone might make a motion to amend.
Okay.
But what's before discussion and consideration right now is an IGA with the parks to do the York Commons project and include the valve that they have requested.
So an aye is for the valve.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to speak then. Pardon me. I speak tonight in sadness rather than anger. There are no villains here. There are only well-meaning people on the park board and on the city council. Let's get rid of this. People who want to do the right thing. We do, though, have a disagreement as to what exactly is the right thing to do. The Park District wants the taxpayers of Elmhurst to pay $100,000 for a mechanical shutoff valve that the nationally renowned expert, Dr. Christopher Burke, says is not only unnecessary, but runs the risk of failure, as all mechanical things do, for which the taxpayers of Elmhurst will be at potential risk of millions of dollars. Let me repeat, you, the taxpayers, will be legally at risk of millions of dollars if this valve fails. The Park Board wants the valve in the event of a 500-year event, though this would be the only location in Elmhurst protected in the event of a 500-year flood. The Park District does not accept the fact that the same, if not better, result could be achieved with no liability to the taxpayers of Elmhurst at a lower cost by a minor excavation. Our policy is to protect Elmhurst against 100-year events, not 500-year events. The cost of 100-year protection runs into tens of millions of dollars. The cost of 500-year protection would run into many hundreds of millions of dollars, with a confiscatory rise in taxes to pay for it. That is why we limit our protection to 100 years. In addition, the Park District wants the taxpayers of Elmhurst to pay 1.5 times the value of Park District land to be used for flood mitigation. Let me repeat, 1.5 times. The Park District serves the same electoral and taxpayer base as the city of Elmhurst. Why, or what I should say, what is this disembodied entity called the city of Elmhurst? It is you, all the taxpayers and voters of Elmhurst. That's the city of Elmhurst. I say to the Park District, we're not strangers, but the very taxpayers and voters that have elected you. Balance your books, but don't unduly burden the taxpayers of Elmhurst. The city of Elmhurst, not the Park District, has the sole legislative and financial responsibility for flood mitigation. The taxpayers must bear the heavy costs. I say to the Park District, don't add to these costs. We can and must negotiate a better deal. I believe that this is a needless waste of taxpayer money, as well as the assumption of millions of dollars of potential taxpayer liability for a check valve that is unnecessary, as well as being potentially unreliable, particularly when there is an alternate proposal which can achieve the same results for less money and without millions of dollars of legal liability. So as I understand you, Mr. Mayor, then I will not support this motion.
Okay. Any additional comments? Alderman Kennedy, then I'll go to Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get right to the point. I am in support of the IGA with the shutoff valve, and it's not because I think it's the right thing to do engineering-wise. I think it's the right thing to do for the residents of Crescent, because they, along with the rest of the Elmhurst residents, have said that addressing our flooding issue is the #1 thing they want us to do. So, you know, we've talked about a system to be built for a 100-year level of protection. That's what we asked Burke to do. That's what they went out and did. And that's where the design was presented to us. Park District came back, looked at that and said, you need to be worried about the 500-year event. We went back to the Park District and said, we can do that if we can increase the detention of that area from 10 acre-feet to 11 acre-feet. Has 500-year level of protection and doesn't require the shutoff valve. They ignored sound engineering judgment from a nationally recognized expert and said that we still need to do the shutoff valve. In the end, this is not a win-win, as one of the residents alluded to. It's a result, but it's waste. Waste is waste. It's $100,000 of money that we could put to other projects. And as I look at this, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, part of me says, I don't want to do this. But what's the alternative? And the only alternative in my mind is to think maybe something might be different a year from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, as potentially different people come to the park board and see things a little differently. But as we know, their main purpose is to preserve green space. Not about recreation, it's not about playability, it's about the preservation of green space. And because I don't see change happening in any time soon, I think the best thing for us to do is to put in the shutoff valve, help the 38 residents on Crescent, and move on. Thank you.
Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to commend Alderman Levin on his, it's not their business. I wish I would have thought of that this afternoon. I received about anywhere between 10 and 15 emails from residents, and I wanted to paraphrase the email, if I may. The Park District has made it clear they are unwavering in their stance, issued October 2014, requesting a shutoff valve on the detention basin at York Commons. While this is not the first choice method by Christopher Burke Engineering for addressing the overflow of a 100-plus year rain event, the inclusion of this valve seems, was the word used, what is needed in an agreement with the Park District. So I go on. I see absolutely no problem with adding that valve and with that statement, to be quite honest, if the park board could show the residents that it's technically justified. I'd like to remind the council that this is a 48-inch pipe. We have an example of that, Jim? So if you could, can somebody tilt that up? How heavy is that tape?
That's 48 inches.
Got a couple firemen here, right?
One.
One retired. Isn't that Public Works job? I don't know.
Put it up in the middle, will you, Bill?
What is?
So that's the size of the pipe. And that will be the size of the cutoff valve as well. So we're not talking about something that's, you know, exiting your home.
Thanks, Bill.
A shutoff valve from your gutters. That's fairly large. So I wanted a visual on that. Another fact that you should remember is that a 100-year storm equates to 7 0.5 inches of rain within a 12-hour period. That's a significant amount of water in 12 hours. Any more water than that, any valve, for this project anyway, is useless, because it's only designed to handle, that pipe can only handle up to a 100-year flood. It surcharges. In a horrendous 500-year storm, nothing matters. All of northern Illinois, for the most part, is flooded. Any games in Elmhurst that were scheduled most likely will be postponed for quite a while. This is all important because this valve is estimated to cost the residents an extra $100,000, as we have heard. If you think that number is big, it is. Look at the size of the pipe. The valve was not necessary back in 2014 in October, and it's not necessary now. We have technically shown that it is not necessary as well. However, since October 2014, we have asked the Park Board to technically explain, show, or model why they are so unwavering in their request. After 18 months, the city has received nothing. We've been shown nothing, except a letter that states that they will not agree to the IGA without the valve. We have no drawings from the Park Board, no models, no technical explanation as to why it is necessary, no nothing. You would think in 18 months they would be able to come up with something, and they haven't. We've been given nothing. What a waste of the residents' money to keep insisting on something that isn't needed. The Park Board's own engineer, V3, has not even stated that the valve is required. We want to be able to solve the flooding issues as a cohesive group of citizens. We represent our wards. We do not own the city property, just as the Park Board does not own the park property. We are all elected to represent, not to bully. Let's not forget a couple of other gems in this saga. We originally asked to use the eastern lobe of the York Commons back in 2014. The eastern lobe has a much greater benefit to the residents. An additional 18 acre-feet of detention. That would be a total of 27 acre-feet of detention, and would not have led to the city spending more money uselessly buying vacant or for sale homes on Washington, since now we had to use the western lobe. I encourage my fellow residents to ask the Park Board why that was. Any third grader would agree that that is crazy to incur those additional costs. I'd like to point out, when we modeled the 500-year storm, ironically, the 500-year storm decimates the area between Villette and Cayuga, but somehow the eastern lobe of York Commons, unscathed. I thought that should be publicly noted. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I would like to thank you for starting the communication meetings. For without the stormwater communication meetings held every month publicly for the last 9 months, I believe this agenda item would still be stuck in another he said, she said saga. The residents and their money would continue to suffer at the expense of others' ignorance and egos. Now at least this item is out in the open, hopefully exposing the silliness of the small-time politics. I will have a clear conscience when asked by my residents that I represent, as well as any resident in Elmhurst, about my decision to vote no for the valve and the misspending of $100,000 of our residents' money based on a hunch. I hope others on this dais feel the same. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to amend the IGA to remove the wording concerning the valve and replace the wording that increases the western lobe detention project to 11 acre-feet by providing the win-win that we, the residents, so desperately want. Thank you. I think you have a copy on your desk.
I do. I appreciate that, Alderman Wagner. So, as our code states, we appreciate when aldermen, if they're going to make a motion, submit that motion to the chair. I've talked to City Attorney Storino about this, and he believes that the motion can stand. There will probably be technical contractual language that would have to be added to the IGA specifically, and I'm not asking the alderman to write that specific language, but I'm going to repeat for the clerk and for someone if they want a second, a summary of the motion. If I have it right, Alderman Wagner, please let me know. A motion to amend the IGA to remove the wording concerning the valve and replace with the wording that increases the Western Lobe Detention Project to 11 acre-feet. Is that right?
Correct.
Is that clear? Is that understood?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just for clarification, so that is not the other document that's attached to board docs, correct?
No, that is not the other. That one was just a removal. This has a removal and an addition of taking it from 10 acre-feet to 11 acre-feet.
And that is the additional digging of that western lobe?
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Alderman Mulliner with a second. We have a motion to amend. It's before us now. Any additional yes, Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Alderman Wagner and Alderman Mulliner for their amendment, but I suggest we don't go forward because the Park District has made it abundantly clear that they don't want to do the project without the shutoff valve, and they have no interest in increasing the detention from 10 to 11 acre-feet. If we go through and we play this game again, we're going to be back here in 4 weeks. And in that point in time, we may have lost time to be able to make material progress on this project such that we can get this completed before the snow flies in the winter of the winter of 2016, 2017. So I appreciate their thoughts and their emotions behind this, but I would implore the rest of my fellow aldermen to not vote for the amendment so that we can get the project done in a timely manner. Thanks.
Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I think backing up what we just heard from Alderman Kennedy, I truly believe this project is better without a valve, and it is clearly less expensive without the valve. That said, we have a project to move forward, and it, to me, also is abundantly clear that without a valve, there will be no project. For that reason, I ask for your support of the IGA with the valve. When the project is complete, we will have 38 more homes in the area of Crescent Avenue that will not flood during a 100-year storm event. Accepting this project with a valve is a painful proposition, but I have to say even more painful has been the divisiveness between the city and the park board. There needs to be room in any discussion for a situation to be viewed differently. In this case, it's possible that the city and the park board have good intentions. The breakdown happens when one position is deemed right and the other wrong. This characterization takes away the opportunity to find middle ground, which can often be a reasonable path forward. We challenge folks in Washington and in Springfield to find middle ground in the interest of progress, and we absolutely should expect it within our community. This is not the first issue where the city has yielded to the park board's demand. Regardless, I will continue to be hopeful that there might be room for middle ground in future discussions. Thank you.
Alderman Mulliner.
Just want to make a couple of comments that relate, and it relates to not putting in the valve. A couple of things that we need to keep in mind, and I know where this is going to end up, but I'm just going to say it anyways. There's things that we are not taking into consideration. We all like to say that this is a $100,000 valve. This is a $100,000 valve when we install it. On an annual basis, there's significant maintenance that's going to go on with this valve. This isn't something where you just kind of, as Alderman Wagner said, here's the size of the pipe. You don't just kind of walk in there and say, we're going to make the valve work. We have to make sure that it's working all the time. So there's going to be some significant maintenance that's going to have to be done with this particular valve. And contrary to comments that I've heard in the past, this will be the only valve of this style in the city of Elmhurst. We have other large valves in the city of Elmhurst, but they operate in a similar fashion to some pump valves, which are completely different, which means that we have to have a different group doing the maintenance on this, or we have to train a team to do the maintenance on this. So the cost of this is an ongoing cost. It's not just the cost of the valve itself to install it. Additionally, I just want to make it very clear, and Alderman Leader was trying to make this clear at one point, and that is that we pick up a significant liability as soon as we put this valve in, because we have been advised by now not just one engineering firm, but 2 engineering firms, because V3 agreed with Burke when it talks about the 100-year, that we should not that we do not need a valve. So we are taking on that responsibility, saying that that valve is a necessity.
Alderman Levin.
On the motion to amend, I think the mover and the person who offers the second are being far too logical. It's not going to work here. I agree with Chairman Kennedy that we've heard from the Park District that whether it makes sense or not, they want a valve. Whether it makes sense or not, they're not going to dig down for another acre foot. If we start going around and around again, we will be back here. This will be going on for months. And I would like to hope, and I would never want to, it's painful to have a dispute, particularly in public, with another public body. And I'd be happy to find that middle ground. But what's the middle ground? A half a valve, $50,000 worth? I mean, there isn't a middle ground. And the reason there can't be a middle ground is because there's not an argument offered in opposition that has any sense. If it was offered up that, well, the valve would do this, or this, our technical engineer thinks it is required, then I'd say, well, maybe there's a reason to compromise. But nothing has been offered up. So on the amendment, I want to take the pain tonight and say it's going to be distasteful, it's not going to make sense, but I don't want to go around again with another, I mean, each set of meetings takes weeks, and I know we're talking about $100,000, but in my opinion, we have been forced to do this. I'm going to vote for this. It's not right. I'm going to do it. And I hope people will look and go back to the park board and say, the city's done what they're not supposed to do. And if the taxpayers feel strongly about it, I hope they'll go to the park board and say, why are you making the city do it? But I don't want to prolong this anymore. I'm going to vote no on that amendment, not because it's not well thought out, but just because of the logistics of where we are.
Thank you. Alderman Honquist.
So and I can't hear very well, so tell me to speak up if I'm not loud enough. Do I need to speak up already? I just want to remind everyone that starting in July, after almost 2 years of Alderman Kennedy and Palumsky working on the Mayor's Communication Committee, which was designed specifically to address what we're talking about tonight, which is to ferret out the issues, come to some agreement, and come to a decision, that it had failed so poorly that we had to make these public meetings. So to Alderman Wagner's comments, this process has not worked well. And we all know in business and other situations, you have two parties that want to work together. This should have been as easy as, what do you guys need? How do we work this out? And it should have been done before I even showed up on this council 2.5 years ago. But it hasn't been. So then I was asked to get involved as a fresh view of this in July. We've negotiated with the state, we've negotiated with the county, we've negotiated with the school board. We've gotten fair deals done with all other parties. But unfortunately, if you all look around this room tonight, there are more aldermen here than there are residents upset about this issue. And I can't blame them. This is a 2.5-year process. So I don't think it's a good deal either. If you recall, what they wanted when I was here in July is they wanted the firehouse lease extended, which we agreed to at the time for all 5 sites, then 1 site. They keep moving it on us. I agree this is not a good deal. I don't want to vote for this, but the people that live on that street that I've walked up and down when they're crying because there's so much water in their basement, we've got to do this deal. It sucks, excuse my French. I would like to see the park board come back one last time and do what's right here and be reasonable. We have 1 committee meeting on Thursday. For all you folks that are out there, you can come talk to it. And one of the park board members is here. Talk to him. But we've had these meetings. We've had, after this time, we've had these meetings. We've had conversations from the residents to the park board. For whatever reason, there is an animosity between that park board and this city council. And you would think on an issue this big that it could be put to the side, but it hasn't been. So I don't know what else we can do. At one of the last communication meetings with the mayor, I asked for a couple of the other sites that are clearly green space sites, to Alderman Kennedy's point, come back to us and just let us use those as green space sites. Very similar to the project we now have on Webster. It's the same thing. For all you guys who want to do it, right as you get on 290, you see it right to your right, exiting to go downtown. It's a very simple process. This has been such a difficult process for all of us. If we go one more time, it's never going to end. So let's end this tonight, let's vote this in, and then let's hopefully get some better cooperation on the next couple, 3 projects, whatever we're gonna do. Please, thank you.
Alderman Dunn?
I guess I want to tone it down a little bit. I think the residents did a good job tonight, really good job of sort of summarizing the situation. The residents are in distress. They're worried about their homes. They're worried about their flooding issues. They completely understand the valve's not needed. But the engineer that we've enlisted, the engineer that the Park District enlisted, do agree to that. But we also recognize that the Park District has dug their heels in. I think that some of the concerns of the Park Board are not outlandish. However, I think they're somewhat exaggerated. Right now, we have a $2 million project approximately. We're looking at adding $100,000 to it. I think in order to move forward, we need to support the underlying agenda item, which is the IGA with the valve in it. If this were the only project we were doing, I'd be willing to continue to really try to optimize the deal for both parties, but we have a lot of other projects. We need to move forward with this one. It's not going to get any better from the city's standpoint, so I would strongly suggest we not support adding an extra acre feet, that we support what the Park District is proposing and proceed with the IGA that has the valve in it, reluctantly. Thanks.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to touch on several points that have been made or touched on already. First, in regards to the amendment, and I agree it's a good idea. 11 acre feet is better than 10 acre feet. However, I agree with Alderman Kennedy. I think that if we threw that in there, it will set the process back months. I don't think weeks, I think months. So for that reason, I won't support the motion to amend to 10 acre feet. I have a unique perspective from both the City Council and the Park Board because I'm the only person on either board that has served on each board. And quite honestly, it's unfortunate where we're at today. My experience on the Park Board was one of we look to partner with the city in pretty much any instance we could. And the discussions weren't acrimonious. They were tough, but they didn't get to the level of mistrust, I think, that believes now. That's my opinion, but it's unfortunate. But it is what it is. 2 weeks ago, when this motion was made, I voted no to bring it back because I was firmly in the camp of no, the valve was not needed. However, over the last couple weeks, I've had the opportunity to talk to several aldermen, certainly Alderman Kennedy, Mayor Morley, Alderman York, and I've been persuaded. I've changed my tune, and I'm going to come around and I'm going to support the ordinance. I'm going to support the valve, and I agree that it's not needed, and for all the reasons that have already been stated. But I'm going to support the ordinance because it is the right thing to do for Crescent. I wish certain members of the Park Board had the same concern for the residents of Washington, so we could still talk about the East Low, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse. Finally, to the residents, some that are here, others that are watching or will hear later on. I'm going to give you a warning that even if the ordinance passes tonight, I don't think it's a done deal because the history with this specific project has shown us it's not a done deal. This project has been on the list of projects the longest, along with 3 or 4 others. And every time we thought we had something done, something else came along. And I can cite all of the different something else's, but certainly the Public Works garage is, in my mind, the most prevalent. The lease doesn't expire for another, well, I think it's 11 years now. That stopped the deal previous. We were going to do 5 projects at once for the Public Works garage, this project included, and now we're not. Now the Public Works garage is tied to this project. So I'm going to support it. I hope the ordinance passes with the valve in it, but to the residents on Crescent, believe it when you see it. Believe it when the majority of the park board says aye. Thank you.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you. At this time, I'm only going to speak to the motion before us, which is the motion to amend, which is no valve and dig down deeper that additional acre foot. I applaud the efforts to go compromise for Alderman Wagner and Mulliner with his second, but I'll just say this. It's loud and clear to me that the only thing really before us today is yes or no on valve, on moving forward with the valve. So I don't want to delay this discussion anymore. I'll speak with the assumption that I'll have another opportunity, but I think right now, albeit this is a good idea to compromise, it's been clear from the Park District side to the City Council that they want the valve or there's no deal, and we just have to vote on that. So I can't support this motion to amend, but I do, again, want to applaud Alderman Wagner and Mulliner for throwing out the compromise.
Any additional comments as it relates to this motion to amend? Alderman York.
Thank you. On the amendment, I too appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into the amendment, and I'll speak to the whole issue as soon as we take a vote on the amendment, but I can't support the amendment. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to call the roll on the motion to amend the IGA as stated.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
No.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
No.
Bram.
No.
Volumsky.
No.
York.
No.
Toledo.
No.
Healy.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Lundquist.
No.
Did I get everybody? Okay, it looks like 3 ayes. Three ayes, 11 nays.
3 ayes, 11 nays. Motion to amend fails. Back to the underlying motion, which is approval of the IGA, the resolution and the IGA with the valve included. Additional conversation. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too agree with much of what's already been said and shared up here tonight. However, I do want to take the opportunity to say a few words. Being ever hopeful of spring, I'm going to use some baseball references to frame some rhetorical questions. Already knowing, though, that the chin-wagging discourse that has taken place regarding the insistence of the inclusion of a shutoff valve, we find ourselves currently discussing. Now, please keep in mind that I'm no norm leader. I cannot be held to nor attain his standard of rhetoric, but I'm going to give it a shot nonetheless. Why have the residents been denied the use of the East Lobe at York Commons? Swing and a miss, strike one. Why isn't the city being allowed to make better playing surfaces to the benefit of all residents and park users? Swing and a miss, strike two. You have your long-term favorable lease extension at Public Works Garage, Park District, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Why is the city not being allowed to add an extra acre-foot of storage in the West Lobe at York Commons? Foul ball, still 1 ball, 2 strikes. Why is the city being required to add a shutoff valve to the West Lobe project when there is not one professional engineer that can attest to the fact that the valve will provide any relief to anyone in a 100-year event? Big swing, drop foul tip, still ball one, strike two. Pitchers and catchers report later this week. I can't wait to see how this at-bat turns out. For tonight, I'm going to pinch my nose tightly and vote to help the residents that are affected locally by this project moving forward now. I would hope that the many residents that took the time to reach out to not only me, but I'm assuming all the other aldermen, will email their Park District representatives with some additional commentary, perhaps copying us in. Thank you.
Additional comments? Alderman Polomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I too will support this resolution with the valve in it, reluctantly, but it has occurred to me, we've heard from most here on the dais, in an effort to assist our shared constituents, this council has run into a number of obstacles. They've been mentioned with this process with the Park District, and what's been brought up tonight includes the unnecessary cost. It's been mentioned lack of logic behind it. The refusal of our offer to improve playing surfaces, the addition of a lengthy lease agreement, and it was mentioned all the other something else's. Most importantly, though, I think we have to acknowledge the threat of failure of potentially with this valve. We are not following the recommendations of Dr. Burke, and I think we need to acknowledge its indisputable vulnerability of making this decision. So I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution just to include the following language. Whereas the inclusion of a mechanical valve in the stormwater improvements deviates from the recommendation of the city's retained engineer, Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, and the City Council, but is necessary to meet the approval of the Park District.
Okay. Alderman Polomsky was also kind enough to provide me with a written version of her amendment. Don, would this be in the resolution or would it be in the IJ? Probably the resolution? The resolution. Okay. So this is an amendment proposed by Alderman Polomsky that would be in the first couple of pages. Throw in another whereas if you're used to these. I'm going to read this and then I will ask, because we have a motion before us, I will ask for a second. Alderman Polomsky, if I don't get it right, please let me know. So we have a motion before us to add the following language to the resolution. Whereas the inclusion of a mechanical valve in the stormwater improvements deviates from the recommendation of the city's retained engineer, Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, and the City Council, but is necessary to meet the approval of the Park District. That's what I have here. Is that correct as written? Okay, we have a motion to add the language I just read to the resolution. Do I have a second? Alderman Kennedy. Conversation as it relates to this motion to amend the resolution. Alderman Bram.
I applaud Alderman Polomsky's effort in this case to add the additional verbiage. I think the attorney did a good job on the initial resolution. I don't want to play attorney in this case. I'm fine with the resolutions that are on board docs right now. I don't want to invest time on discussing on pretty much the history and putting it in the resolution, because it really is no substance on changing valve or no valve in this case. So I can't support the motion as read, and I'm just going to vote on what's before us in board docs.
Okay. Just a bit of clarification. Alderman Polomsky, I know that you know, you worked on this language, but you worked on it with City Attorney Serino or someone in his office?
Grabowski, which sent,
okay.
And he sent it to City
Okay.
Attorney.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. I will support this motion as well. I think that it does a fair job of representing the factual nature of the discussion tonight and over the course of the past couple months as it relates to the stormwater improvements and the factual need or not of those improvements, i.e. the valve. And I think it also represents the 35 minutes plus that we up here on the dais have been discussing in a very succinct way the concerns that many of us have about the valve. It reflects that, it puts that and codifies that into this, and helps us all better make sense of the decision that we're about to make tonight. Thank you.
Alderman Mulliner.
I too can support this. I think it's a terrific addition, so I think that we should add this into it.
Point of order?
Yes.
It was just mentioned that this will be codified, the additional amendment.
I think that's just someone's opinion or term.
Okay.
I mean, this will be added. Okay. Alderman Mulliner, I'm sorry, were you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Any additional comments as it relates to the motion before us to add the whereas language as read? Okay, I'm going to call, ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on the motion to add an amendment, proposed amendment to add, whereas the inclusion of the mechanical valve in the stormwater improvements deviates from the recommendation of the city's retained engineer, Christopher Burke Engineering Limited, and the City Council, but is necessary to meet the approval of the Park District. Clerk Spencer, please call the vote.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
No.
Graham.
No.
I got everybody. All right, so that, oh, York? I'm sorry. This has got me. All right, sorry. York.
I forgot the question. Oh, aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Gosh. Levin.
Aye.
All right, now. Looks like 11 ayes, 3 nays.
11 ayes, 3 nays, motion carries. The Polumsky amendment will be added to the resolution. We still have the motion before us with the amendment. Additional comments as it relates to this motion?
Yeah.
Alderman Brand? No, was that a forget about it?
That's a yes.
That's a yes? Yes, you have something to say?
Sure.
Alderman Bram, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to take this opportunity to just speak about not necessarily the motion that I already spoke to because it moved forward, but actually the preceding motion or the preceding resolution with the valve. I want to provide my perspective on where we're at today. A lot of it's been stated, but I want to provide my view. I think we need to keep in mind, because there's a lot of comments on the park districts demanding this, they demanded that, they want this, they want that. When we first brought this up to them or any of the park district properties, no matter if, yes, it is true, the land is everybody in Elmhurst, no matter if it's currently managed or quote-unquote owned by the park district or currently managed/owned by the city or the schools for that matter. But when we initially went to them, the park district could have said, go pound sand, city, update your infrastructure, spend 10, if not more times the amount of money than doing these detention areas. But instead, I believe that there's been statements that is mudslinging against the park district. We might not like what's before us. We might not like on how they negotiated the deal up to this point and what their demands were. But the point of the matter is they are working with us, as well as, and we don't mention it much, as well as the school district. The school district's proposal pretty much flew through the city council with bare minimal, if any, debate. But the school district's proposal, their IGA, is more demanding than what the park district is asking for. The school district, if you need to be reminded, is saying we can take back the land that you're doing this detention area on as long as we give you solid reason on why we need it back. The Park District is at least saying, once this is yours, this is yours. The 1.5 times price is nothing to do with your commons. It's about the other agreements we're talking about, Golden Meadows and possibly others. It's not about your commons. So even though they may be asking for 1.5 times the cost or the assessed value of the land, it's not relevant to this discussion. I don't agree with the valve, and I made that really clear in past discussions in committee and here at the dais. I think it's against engineering judgment. I not only think it, I know it from our consultant that we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million at this point, to do all this analysis. I don't agree with it, but then again, I had to swallow what I didn't agree with as well with our IGA with the school district, with their ability to take back the property. This is more palatable to me than what I've already said let's move forward with on the school's IGA. I applaud both government bodies, because either of them could have said, go pound sand, find another alternative. Neither of them did it. Both of them said, let's work. We might not like the conditions, we might not like what they proposed or how they negotiated. It's irrelevant. They didn't tell us to go take a hike. And I think that needs to be stressed, because we would not be able to do any projects in the near term if neither of these government bodies decided to stay at the table with us and move forward with it. The reasons behind digging down. Honestly, I called multiple Park District commissioners on why that is, because it seemed like a logical compromise, as Alderman Wagner has stated. They said that they didn't want to, and one of them stated to me that there's a chance of, I believe, possible polluting that volleyball court if they dig it down. Do I agree or not? It's not my choice. It's their property. At this time, it's their property. So that is their rationale. They gave me a rationale. I need to move past it. I think everything that's been before us to date, from the parks as well as the school, well-intended requests. We might not take it that way because we as a city are not getting what we want or we think is necessary, but they're definitely, my time up?
Yep, sorry about that.
They're definitely well-intended requests. So I think the implementation of the valve is not necessary, as I stated before. Going into the beginning of last week, I was set against this. I was digging my heels in and saying, we're not doing a valve, we're wasting taxpayer money, no way, we're already above a 100-year storm event. Why are we going against the grain what we've stated? But essentially what it comes down to is I reflected upon my own votes on the school's IGA. I didn't like those terms either. And in order to do what's right by everybody in the city of Elmhurst, because I don't want this to continue to be a stalemate, I think it's the right thing to do to vote what they're requesting in regards to with the valve and move forward. It's for the betterment of everybody. And some people may say, well, it's $100,000, that's a lot of money. And I agree. As I've stood before here on a lot of the fiscal decisions we make, I penny pinch every dollar we spent, every dollar we give away. But in this case, it seems like it's all or nothing. And to me, all is better than nothing. So I hope we are all in support of moving forward with the valve, and we can continue negotiations in good faith with the Park District and the school districts on the other properties that we have went to them. Keep that in mind. We have went to them requesting their help to be a team to resolve the issues in the city of Elmhurst, and the city of Elmhurst issues, not the parks issues, not the schools issues, our issues, to do it faster and cheaper.
The residents' issues. The residents.
Point of
Excuse
order.
me.
Yeah, Alderman Bram, I got it. Point of order. Mr. Honquist, you're not recognized. Mr. Bram, please continue.
I'm done.
Alderman Leader.
I can only hope that we never have a 500-year flood. I can only hope that this valve never fails. I don't believe this is the best deal for the taxpayers, but it is the only deal. Politics is the art of the possible, the attainable, the art of the next best. In that spirit, I will vote yes.
Okay. Alderman Sabatino.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make this brief. My internal valve is shutting down. I support the inclusion of this valve, but the city should not be in a position ever again, in my opinion, of being strong-armed. I'm dead set against this, but we need to move on, and I say let the city run the city.
Alderman York, did you have anything to say? No. Alderman Dunn?
Alderman Leader mentioned that he's hopeful that we never see a 500-year flood. I too am hopeful. I'm also hopeful that at some point in the future, should we proceed with this valve, and I would state that we should support that tonight, that perhaps that valve can be disabled at the agreement of both parties, but at this point, we need to move forward with that. But I think in the future, there might be opportunity after some heavy rains and some better understanding of how that project worked, that perhaps we determined that truly that was not needed and might be able to move forward that way. Just my hope.
Okay, no more comments. I'm going to take this opportunity. Mayor Marcucci, I did it 3 times while he was mayor. I'm going to pass the gavel to Alderman Healy, Chairman Healy, closest chairman I can get to. I'm not going to vote, but I do want to have a say before folks vote. It's a very rare occasion, but I just want to say a couple of words. This has been a leading issue for me since I took office. Formed the Communications Committee, I think the second week or so I was in office. I want to thank Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Polomsky for their hard work on this. I also want to thank the Public Works Committee and all of the aldermen for their patience and attention to this. I agree with everything that's been set up here this evening with all of the aldermen, with the exception of what I consider indefensible actions and positions by the Park District. I will not support that. I don't agree with that. However, I'm asking council to consider this vote. This vote is to do the project or not do the project. It's very clear. If you want the project to happen, the valve has to be in. That's it. I've been living this for almost 3 years now. This is where we are. I ask you to consider that when you cast your vote. That'll do it. Alderman Healy, can I have my gavel back? Okay. No more comments? I'm sorry. Any more comments? Seeing no more comments, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, which is approval, a motion to approve Resolution R-134-2015, which includes the valve language in the IGA, but also includes the approved amendment, the Polomsky amendment, just clarifying in the whereas portion of the document. Clear? Everyone clear? Clerk Spencer, please call the roll.
Levin.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Polomsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Looks like
Eddie, can I vote?
we're forgetting people tonight. I don't know. I apologize for this. I don't know what's wrong with me. Kennedy.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. 13 ayes and 1 nay.
13 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries. Resolution is approved with the valve in it. Thank you, everybody. We still have the rest of the meeting to finish. Agenda item 9.2. Clerk Spencer, it's a resolution. I'd ask that you read the resolution.
A resolution approving an amendment to a certain license agreement between Wide Open West Illinois LLC and the City of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Okay, to put this motion, put this resolution before council, I'll ask for approval of the resolution, a motion to approve the resolution as read. Motion by Alderman Healy, second by Alderman Palomsky. Alderman Healy?
Thank you, Mayor. Fortunately, this resolution doesn't include the state of Illinois, the DuPage County, and the governing body. It does, however, go to improve internet connectivity at one of our largest and best residents, stakeholders in Elmhurst College. This is something that we passed a report earlier tonight on the consent agenda. We agreed to suspend the rules so we could approve the resolution. Quite honestly, this is one of those things that just got bogged down a little bit between the college and city staff, so we wanted to move it through very quickly as we could. Basically, it allows WOW Communication to string wire in existing right-of-way poles to provide better internet service for those residents that have WOW, and there are some of them, but more importantly, it goes to greatly improve, I believe it's just Wi-Fi at the college for the students and the facilities. So I think it's pretty cut and dry. It falls in line with all of our other facility licensing agreements. I want to ask for your support. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Kirk Spencer, you're Kirk Spencer, not Spencer till 10:30.
Okay.
Kirk Spencer, please call the roll.
All right, this is my last roll call, and let's hope I don't mess it up. I apologize for this evening's errors. Okay, we're going to start with Healy.
Aye.
Palomsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays. I did it.
Applause is welcome. 14 ayes, 0 nays. Agenda item 9.2 is approved. On to other business. Any other business? Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Kennedy, you had some other business.
I do.
Okay.
But someone else had some if they'd like.
No, I think Alderman Muller can't wait to get out of here.
So let's go.
Thank you. I want to thank the members of the City Council for seeing through the vitriol and hyperbole to assist the residents on Crescent with the approval of the York Commons IGA with the inclusion of the valve. So where do we go from here? Next up is the IGA for Golden Meadows Park that includes a 1.5 times cost for the purchase of the land, which could cost residents upward, in my estimation, of over $3 million for the purchase of that land. This added expense will delay the completion of other flood mitigation projects due to the budgetary constraints we operate under. After that project, from what I heard from the Park District, we're on our own. We will have to deal with your East End, we will have to deal with Crescent, and we will have to deal with Wild Meadows Trace on our own without their help, based on what I heard in their meeting from last week. I want to take a minute to do a little fact-checking for the Park District, because a lot of what I've heard over the last 2 meetings is short of the truth and short of facts. Elmhurst Park District has not done everything they can to help the residents. In the meeting on February 10th, they stated that the City of Elmhurst came in and basically demanded park property for flood detention. Nothing could be further from the truth. If that were the case, why did we offer park amenity improvements at a cost premium? We did that because that was the best for the residents, not only from a flood standpoint, but from a playability standpoint. infrastructure is not cheaper than any other means of flood mitigation. That has been stated by the Park Board, that it is cheaper. It's wrong. Read the Burke report. It states it clearly. There also was a comment about infrastructure is just now or hasn't even been talked about. Infrastructure has been part of our overall approach from the very beginning, and we said we were going to do the most good for the most amount of people at the best cost in the shortest amount of time, and that was the use of above-ground detention. New construction is not the cause of the flooding. Per Christopher Burke, new construction has no discernible effect on the extent of flooding in major storm events. It does in smaller events for the rate in which water goes into the storm system, but in the big events, it does not. And we've gone as far as to add the requirement for new homes to have on-site detention if they increase the impervious. We've seen an approximately, from a detention standpoint, 4 acre-feet over the last 2 years. So we've made it better and not worse. The East Lobe would have a benefit to Washington Street. They've stated that it wouldn't. If you look back in the information, it would. Interestingly, when we talked about East End, the land that was offered by the Park District was the only area of that park that was held up by an IDNR restriction. Not the area that could have been improved with baseball fields that any of us who have children know are garbage. No, we were pushed to the IDNR spot. The 79-year lease extension, we all know it had nothing to do with York Commons. It was just another way to get the project done. And if we just did the other projects of putting water into York Commons, we wouldn't need to store any more water in parks. Again, ignorance of what was presented in the Burke report and the economics around that. I've also heard again on the meeting from last week that we should have bought the hospital. The Elmhurst Park District and 205 had the same opportunity to buy the hospital property, and they chose not to do it. So to keep bringing that up as an issue is baloney. Park District has said preservation of open space is their mantra, and that's what drives them. What clearly is not important to the Park District is playability. Park Board President Carolyn Ubriacro stated that to me. Facilities. They don't care about those, I don't think, because there's a reason why there are so many gyms moving into Elmhurst. It's because the market is being underserved. Go to other towns and see that this dynamic is not the same. The Elmhurst Park District is upset about LA Fitness and Fitness Formula. I would say perhaps they need to be looking at the product and why customers are not choosing the courts. If they really wanted to help residents, they'd move forward on these projects. And what have residents lost out in this decision? State-of-the-art soccer field and ADA accessible soccer field and the elimination of traffic and parking issues at Golden Meadows Park. State-of-the-art and ADA accessible baseball, basketball, and sand volleyball areas at York Commons. State-of-the-art and ADA accessible baseball field at East End, and the elimination of an area that consistently floods even in minor storm events. And obviously, not spending $100,000 on a shutoff valve. So it's up to you as the electorate to decide the future you want to see and the Park District's role in it. I, for one, feel the entity is not serving the needs of the residents. That is not sour grapes. Those are cold, hard facts. Thank you.
Any other business? Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Sabatino. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.